A monster with horns and great demon wings calls the heroes, whom he calls unfortunate, with a terrible voice. He announces that they will witness the greatest power of the Demon King. Once upon a time, in a place called Continent of Darkness, a war devastated between the army of the Demon King, mankind, and the elves. The long stagnation was broken by heroes who gathered from all over the world. In the Dark Castle, they met a terrible enemy, whose dark figure and imposing inspired fear. It was Vald Aslai, second king of Visgard. Both sides fought desperately, using all your strength, and the battle was finally approaching the climax. A great spell covered with symbols is created next to the Demon King, from which he tries to hide himself instinctively, putting his hand ahead. The spell goes into action, and his body begins to crumble. He gasps in pain, looking surprised at his cracked arm. He roars with pain, without understanding what is happening to his body. Pieces of meat fly in different directions. The wizard who cast the spell stares at him with penetrating eyes. The Demon King screams, asking what he did to him. Val doesn't understand how this could happen. He extends his palm in disintegration toward the light. It is the 12th day of the dark 20th month of the year 528 of darkness. Thoughts of death visit him while falls into the dark abyss that sucks him. On this day, he thinks, the story of Valt Aslai, of 29 years, is coming to an end. A large full moon lights up a place. In the northern region of the Kingdom of Lagar, an explosion occurs in a palace built inside a mountain. The stone walls of the place, like a cave, are shaking. People, afraid to die, run in different directions, screaming curses and requests for shelter, and hurry those who provide first aid. The one responsible for the destruction is, as one of the people calls it, the high-strength stone dragon. Bergun, also known as the tyrannical earth dragon, he smiles angry, stone grinding under grab to the rocks with its big claws. A boy and a girl hide behind rocks, watching the dragon. The boy is surprised that Bergun has basilisks following him everywhere. He shares with her, concerned, his fears about excess spending on supplies and the number of victims. A girl approaches behind them, confidently asking them to let her face her enemies. They turn around and look at her with amazement. She claims she won't let anyone die. She's been a hero for a long time. She has long blonde hair, elegant armor in dress shape, and a two-handed sword in her hand. People get inflamed, screaming her name, calling her Miss Iris, and they motivate others to keep fighting as long as they can. The girl runs into battle as people communicate by voice signals to protect her. Iris tries to figure out the enemy's weak spot, which is covered in scales. She finds him in the belly. The dragon perceives it, piercing it with an angry look. He attacks, throwing a huge burst of flames through his mouth. She flies up and manages to deflect. Your cheek is scratched by flying rock fragments, she thinks anxiously, that even the breath of this dragon is threatening, and that it needs to regain balance quickly. Before she can do that, the girl bumps into the wall with her whole body, screaming in pain. It slides down, the force of impact leaving a mark on the stone. People call for her with concern. Still holding the weapon, which is the sacred sword Mistiltine in his hand, she thinks, disappointed, that she never had a chance to release her power. Severely wounded, she looks at the angry dragon and thinks, impotent, that if everything ends like this, then, at least, die with honor. At that moment, a lightning strikes with a bang on the battlefield, whose light hides not only people, but Also, the dragon. By the force with which it hits and destroys the stone, a powerful wind stream emerges. After that, Iris, covered in bruises, gets up, holding his head, feeling confused. She's surprised. She's still alive and wonders what kind of light that was. In the place where the lightning fell, straight ahead to the roaring dragon, is a man with a black cape. The girl is extremely surprised by your appearance. She still can't understand what happened. The man in the black cape turns out to be a boy with dark hair. Iris doesn't understand who he is or what he's doing. Kids barefoot on the floor. Near there lie the bodies of basilisks, struck by lightning. He's not sure what he's doing. When he realizes that that is not his castle, he looks at himself with amazement. Trying to understand what happened to your body, the hero notes that his body is similar to that of a human. He says his name and title, being King Demon Vault, ruler of the Dark Continent. The boy then turns his attention to the moon. Impressed by its size, Vault wonders where the others are and suggests how it could have gotten there, but it is interrupted by Vergun's growl nearby. The hero turns his attention to him. Note that although Vergun has no wings, he is, judging by his magnificent physical form, a dragon. The reptile shows him his teeth, roaring even more furiously. The girl watching the scene tries to warn the hero by screaming him off. Interrupting his cry, the dragon attacks the hero with a burst of flames. The earth cracks with fire. The girl exudes with regret. Thinking the hero died, Iris remembers his promise not to let anyone die. She closes her eyes, tears falling from them. The girl reflects with regret that, with her powers, she could have saved him. At that moment, she lifts her head, her eyes spread with what she sees. The hero, unharmed, is still standing on the ground. He notes that his resemblance to a human made him think he was dead. Vault is surprised to realize he doesn't feel anything. The girl looks at him with amazement. The dragon casts a spell that looks like a great bright eye. Iris tries to warn the hero that it's a petrification spell. Almost fatal, a stone crest appears in IT. The hero gets rid of the petrification with a laugh, looking boldly at the enemy and calling the attack a good try. Vergun observes Vault with perplexity. Hidden people watching are amazed that he was able to dispel the spell so easily. Vault suggests that, although he seems a weak man, he still possesses some of the powers of a king. The hero himself doesn't fully understand everything, but having decided for himself, prepares to retaliate. While Vault advances against the enemy with a smile, Iris observes the scene and notes that all the adventurers of the special division of the campaign are elite forces of the royal region. The girl admits that even though they were fully prepared for battle, they could not win. At this moment, the hero deviates from the blows of the dragon's paws. Being on such a powerful team and still losing, she is impressed that the boy fights alone. Vault easily avoids all enemy attacks. The hero swings his arm, concentrating the force on his hand to attack, confident that the dragon will regret getting involved with him. Hit Vergun in the stomach with all his might. With the impact of the blow, even the ground under the hero's feet cracks. The face of the dragon froze in a silent roar, his empty eyes. Iris looks shocked as the dragon flies in the other direction, landing with a bang on the ground. The people around are amazed and joyful, without understanding how the hero managed to hit the dragon with his bare hands, and whether that means they won. Iris staggers towards the hero to hear the answers to his questions. She gets your attention, asking who he is. And if it's true, you defeated the dragon with your bare hands. The hero doesn't understand a word the girl tells him. He concludes that the girl is not hostile, but her tongue is unknown. The boy is convinced he has entered another world. He doesn't want to lose important information because of the language barrier. And an idea comes to mind. Iris still has questions, but Valt reaches out, signaling her to wait. He approaches the fallen dragon, thinking he could use one of his ancient anicaps. With his power, he reads all the knowledge that the dragon accumulated throughout his life. He calls this one Lizarek Gaina, and notes that there was not as much knowledge as he expected. Valt finally turns his attention to the girl. She asks what he's doing, because he felt unusual energy. When he's about to answer, another girl asks who he is. Valt asks if she practices black magic. The girl watches him carefully, saying that she can take it over him, that he appeared out of nowhere. The broad-hat girl, who asked the question, suggests he just extracted information from the dragon's corpse. He agrees, explaining that he could not understand their language, and drew the knowledge of the dragon. To what girls respond with understanding. Iris starts bombing the hero with questions he doesn't have time to answer. And then bends. She looks down. Her chest armor is a little destroyed, but she smiles, thanking Valt, for no one's dead. He is shocked by her attitude and, blushing, denies, saying that he was just defending himself. Valt is so embarrassed he doesn't know where to look. Iris doesn't understand his reaction, and simply asks if he really defeated Vergun without a gun. The hero confirms, without considering it important. As soon as Iris tries to ask about the punch, someone screams loudly, saying the dragon is dead. It's impossible, and Valt is lying. Another girl leaning on a staff says accusingly that he could not defeat such a dragon with his own hands. The hero doesn't understand what they expect from him. The girl screams that even though she saved them, he's not yet trustworthy. Iris says she's right. She asks the hero to say his name, to which he readily agrees. He says his name, explaining to them that he probably died and was reborn as the boy they see, noting that he himself does not understand everything completely, looking at their shocked faces. He says they may not believe him, because he wouldn't believe him himself. At that moment, a girl screams, surprised that the dragon was defeated while she was awake. The pointy-eared girl asks surprised what happened. The girl with the staff asks how she's feeling, to which she replies that a little saliva heals everything. Valt turns his attention to the white animal. A white wolf with big air horns coming out of his jaw and forehead, and black eyes looks at him. Noting that it's a sacred animal while Iris introduces the hero. Valt asks Iris to introduce himself. Since he said his name, she performs happily, giving her surname Lisselvine, and asks to be called by her first name. The girl with the staff starts praising Iris, saying she has the famous Rosesa Kamas. The hero is confused because he doesn't know what he's doing. The girl with the staff keeps talking, explaining that Rosesa is a special class of white knights and that Valt should treat the girl with respect. Iris gets confused about the story and asks her to stop. The girl with the staff performs joyfully as Ransel's name, Ransel. The pointed-eared girl also gently calls the owl's name. Her name is Lutesa or Lutesa also represents the sacred animal. Ranzaluna says dramatically that defeat under Iris' leadership must be punished. Lutesa asks Valt, who he thinks is the leader of the Silver Wolf Knights group. He assumes he's a holy beast. The girl, shocked, asks how he guessed. The hero replies that it was logical because of the name. Lutesa throws herself at him with hugs, saying they will definitely become friends, which the hero tries to avoid with displeasure. The girl grabs the fabric of her tunic with her hands. The fabric rips into tiny pieces, and the hero gets completely naked. The girls are embarrassed. Dronzer screams surprised and gives him the fabric with his palms closed. The hero thanks and thinks his fine clothes did not survive the brutal battle. The girl in the hat presents herself as Gelda and suggests going back to the capital because she's worried about the wounded. She also tells the hero that his curiosity about him was not satisfied. The capital is a large city whose territory is marked by a fortress. The group has completed the mission and is now on its way there. The hero looks horribly at the building sign where they arrived. The girls in the back are talking to each other. The hero is surprised to see on the sign, Guild of Adventurers, Department of Arios. And, surprised, asks out loud. He thinks intensely about how the heroes who defeated him were also adventurous, and asks Iris if she's afraid of him and why he brought him. The girl says she didn't want to treat him like a criminal. The hero confirms he wouldn't like that either, because nobody likes that kind of attitude. Iris says the Knights of the Imperial Guard and the Vigilance Committee are busy, so they'll have to solve the problem themselves. Valt questions with doubt whether she is referring to adventurers. The girl responds affirmatively, and seeing her confusion, does not understand what the problem is. The hero remembers that they are Knights of the Silver Wolf, and asks if that's true. Iris says it's just a group name. After knocking on the door and apologize, escort Valt to her room. The girl in the room greets them in a friendly way. The girl has long ears and a fuzzy tail. She's dressed very revealingly, and Valt is embarrassed. Looking away, not knowing where to look, she performs as Hortensia Lemay Berdelale. Tell them he's at Ariat's branch of the Adventurer Guild, and shares the leader. He says he's been informed of the situation on the battlefield, and he thinks it's good for him to be there. She says she's grateful for his help. Valt answers that he doesn't need thanks. He explains that he simply saw the monster attacking and decided to act. Hortensia offers to sit and tell him everything, making sure there's nothing to worry about. There's a scale on the table. Hortensia explains that she recognizes lies. She begins to say, unselfishly, that she loves her work. To the hero's surprise, the balance begins to tremble. He observes that, judging by the clock, she does not like the work. Hortensia asks if he understands how the scale works. Valt agrees and begins to tell his story about how he came to this world, about being the Demon King, and how he defended himself when the castle was attacked by heroes. The girl looks at the scale with tension. Valt keeps saying he thinks he's been killed and reincarnated into this world in a new body. Everyone looks at him in shock. Hortensia says he's definitely not lying. Valt confirms it. Suddenly, she squeezes him against her chest, lamenting with sympathy that he, a child, probably went through difficult trials, and, to protect himself, imagined himself to be the most powerful king. She says the scale can really tell if someone is lying, but if the person really believes what they're saying, they don't react. She adds that demon kings can only exist in fairy tales, and Valt murmurs indignantly. Hortensia points out that such kings exist in tales only to be defeated, and that the hero has a very active imagination. Valt gets angry because she doesn't believe him. She points to your dangerous situation. The hero doesn't understand because, for him, since he had a second chance in his life, it's like he won the lottery. She points out that, at the moment, he has no money, no clothes, and he calls him unemployed. Walt gets very angry with that statement. The girl, cunningly, says that if he wants to keep living in this town, he has to become an adventurer. The hero aggressively opposes this idea, and it is said that in such a situation, he will need a guardian. The hero is outraged and claims he doesn't know that kind of person. Right now, Iris. He says he's willing to become his guardian. Ranzel and Lutessa are horrified by your statement. Razanluna opposes the decision, telling Iris to think more about his situation, but the girl interrupts you, saying Juve made your decision. It's obvious Hortensia planned this, and she agrees a lot, saying Walt would be a great adventurer. The hero is extremely unhappy with it. Iris tries to make sure that his strength won't be a problem. She admits she's fascinated by her power. And who also wants to fight like this? The hero is very confused with his words. The girls call Iris for dinner. The hero thinks he wants to know more about her. He does not understand why she, who apparently occupies a high position in society, works as an adventurer. The information he obtained from the dragon is not enough, and to get to know the city better, he will have to go back there. He'll have to conduct an investigation. A bald man in uniform draws attention and shouts that on the first day they will throw stones. The hero is in school. He looks at the other students and thinks it will be very easy. While the hero talks about how he needs to finish this school to become an adventurer and make money, the man walks among the students and shouts that everyone should be able to throw stones. Otherwise, they'll come back and bite them. Walt can't help but agree with the man, and, calling the scarecrow pathetic, throws a stone at him with all force. The force of the pitch creates an explosion that destroys both the scarecrow and the wall behind it. The hero looks at the blast site, confused. The man and the other students look at him as surprised. The man calls his release Meteorical Armageddon, a magic of the highest level of black magic. The students murmur among themselves that it's a legendary spell, and it's strange that someone used it. The ground where the subject fell begins to move. Giant red worms come out with a roar. Everybody runs scared. As everyone flees, speculating that the red worms could have been the cause of the explosion, and that they are the target of the guild. The hero evaluates his strength, thinking that they are clearly weaker than the dragon. He smiles, drawing the worms' attention to himself. It works, and they squeal and crawl towards it. He yells at them, asking where their strength is. With the same intensity as previously cast a stone against them, creating an explosion, worms explode in different places. The hero understands with satisfaction that he has won. Students whisper that Walt has all the attributes of a hero, if he managed to do all that with a stone, and are surprised that he is training with them. Confident in his victory, he steps away from the battlefield, preparing to leave. Behind him, the King of Hearts emerges from the ground, with a petal ring around his mouth. Walt freezes, while everyone around him screams out of horror. With arrogance, Walt turns around and says that even if he is a worm, he gives him respect like another worm. The King of Hearts hangs over him, and the hero challenges him to a fight to the death. Walt runs towards the worm and calls for Lizaragaina. The guy realizes the king's outer shell is as hard as diamond. The worm advances on it with its mouth open, confident in his conviction. Walt decides to attack the worm with his right hand, decides to get rid of the body of the worm inside. The next moment he disappears. The leader is frightened by losing his prodigy. Is thinking of rescuing, but right now the worm turns to them. Then, they quickly run back for their lives. Then the hero himself, laughing, frees himself from the body of the worm, saying that the king of worms is not so much despite, in his opinion, a beautiful spectacle. People around are surprised that the hero won without using weapons. Hanging above the city, the hero reflects on the fact that, in essence, this world is no different from yours, because every birth and death, you take a step towards the future. He says it makes the world worthy of being ruled. And if you're inspired to decide that if you didn't succeed the first time, you'll have it on Monday. He lands on the ground with full confidence that this world will be his. While you say goodbye to the worm, a man runs to him, screaming it was magnificent. He looks at the hero with admired eyes, praising him. He asks his name, to which Volt answers embarrassedly. The man draws everyone's attention to him. The man points to the hero and tells everyone that Volt has not yet qualified as adventurer. Accepting this fact, the man points out that the hero defeated all worms. The crowd celebrates, but Volt doesn't understand anything. Everyone begins to approach Volt, praising him and asking for an autograph. He tries to avoid attention, pushing them away angry. Right now, an old man in a black cloak and hat watches him from the window. He's impressed with his strength and sits down to learn more about it. He doesn't believe the hero simply wants to become an adventurer and thinks there's something wrong with his preliminary assessment. He says his stats will be reviewed as soon as he graduates high school. He puts his seal on the roll of the Royal School of Adventure Training. The document states that the school is granting the Volta a slide the title of Night Learning Level 0. The old man quietly congratulates the hero for graduating from school. While he is still surrounded by attention in the courtyard, "There's a lot of people downtown," they whisper. There's talk of a new adventurer who graduated from school on the first day. They say Volt defeated the King of Hearts. At this moment, Hortensia is happy drinking from her glass, feeling great. The fox, drunk, is happy because everyone is talking about Volt. Iris, beside her, points out that she should reduce the amount of alcohol she consumes. Hortensia assures you that everything is fine, because there is no one else in the room but them, so the girl tries to object hesitantly. Gelda tells Iris that calming the fox is a waste of time. To what Iris dramatically calls the girl cruel, Gelda responds by pointing out his frivolity, which Hortensia considers a compliment. Iris tries to say something else. The fox keeps her from doing that, saying you have incredible news. Volt's statistical information indicates level 0. She's surprised because she's never seen this before. Hortensia laughs when she remembers Volt starting school and graduating on the same day, something she observes to be unprecedented. Volt graduated high school faster than anyone in history. While Iris herself graduated in a month, what Hortensia compares. Although Iris was 10 years old at the time, Iris says adventurers should start on level 1 and ask if there might have been a mistake. To which the fox answers no. At first, Hortensia also thought it was a mistake. But Volt's level was in fact 0. She doesn't know what her real level is, but she's pretty sure it's incredibly high. Iris asks what your true level is, and the fox responds that she can't even imagine. Iris remembers passing through the students, talking, thinking about the excitement earlier. She was surprised to hear them talking about Volt and how he defeated over 100 worms. She thinks her unimaginable power seems to have no limits. She and Hortensia highlight her abilities. Lisa thinks they're flaws since he has so many. Iris points out that his centralization statistics are unusual. Hortensia says that's the best part. She says it's nice to see someone with such a chaotic attitude. Iris is impressed to see that Volt has a chaos value of 100%. Hortensia is pleased to say that this is the greatest value she has ever seen in humans. She says not even the most famous tyrant scored more than 80, and Volt has a perfect 100. Lisa's glad she lived long enough to see this. Iris tells her to be careful not to reveal her true age. Lisa explains that alignment is a complex concept and that it is not easy to determine how a person will be kept. Gelda agrees, noting that numbers don't lie, but they don't always tell the truth. She tells Iris that it reminds her that she's on the legal side of the spectrum. The two girls agree they don't know how to feel about it. Iris realizes that she and Volt are at opposite ends of the spectrum. Gelda says that's why you watch them so much. Right now, Fox says he wanted to ask Gelda for a mission. She asks if Gelda could defeat an Earth Dragon. The girl says if she did, she wouldn't have helped Iris get better. Lisa is pleased with that answer. She says they can't let Volt do whatever he wants. Gelda agrees with her. Gelda extends the book, saying it is a manuscript. Girls ask what it is. Gelda explains that this is Brigand's Book of Prophecies, his rival witch. The girl says she dumped him for a reason. They tell her there are rumors that the witch is dead. On page 13, it is written that in the year 999, according to the continental count, in the month of Barbarossa, the Lord of Demons, the gates of the world will open under the scarlet moon in its full phase, and the great King of Terror will descend from the heavens. Realizing it's this year, Gelda agrees with the prophecy that the night of prophecy is similar to today, and that the moon when Volt appeared was inexplicably enormous. The fox laughs and says that if the prophecy is true, it would make Volt the great King of Terror, as in the fairy tale. Iris remembers Volt talking about being a demon king before. Hortensia is skeptical about it, but Iris points out that he was definitely telling the truth. The fox confirms that the scales are a sacred relic and can detect any lie, and that, at least in his own mind, the hero is sure that he is the Demon King. Hortensia says Volt is the most unusual adventurer in recent years. Iris agrees. Liza looks at her flatteringly, pointing out you can never predict everything. She holds Iris' face with her hands and licks her cheek. Iris retreats in shock, and Hortensia says she's never seen her show any interest in a man. To what the girl accuses the fox of reading too much, and explains that she just wants to be like him in terms of strength. Iris admits with admiration that Volt's victory with a single blow made his heart palpitate. In view of this statement, Ranzel shouts indignant that Iris should not forget his situation. He says Iris can't afford to fall in love with some strange stranger. Iris tries to say it's not like that, and Lutessa tries to protect the girl's just indignation from being misplaced by food. What Ranzel tells her to keep out of it. Lutessa scolds the girl for overreacting instead of being happy for her friend's first love. Ranzel responds by saying he doesn't want to hear about love from someone who only cares about food. They start arguing about boyfriends and relationships, while Iris tries to calm the situation. Hortensia realizes that no one is listening to her. She turns to the girls and asks for a favor. Hortensia thoughtfully says that she has high hopes for their group, and therefore feels that she can count on their help. With a sweet expression, she asks Valt to join their team. Ransel shouts indignant that this will not happen because they do not accept a man for the role. She expresses her fears that Iris may be entangled by Valt, ignoring the negatives of Iris herself. Hortensia sighs, realizing Shell need to think about what to do with Valt. She decides she'll find out as soon as Valt has an adventurer's license. Valt wakes up in a room, old and dusty, with spider webs hanging in the corners. At first, he doesn't understand where he is. But then you remember the awful room at the hotel. You go to the window and you notice that, despite everything, you slept well. Note that this is quite different from your past life. He thought he was dead, but he was wrong. And now, looking at the crowded street, you're sure your life is just beginning. Someone knocks on the door, and Valt freezes. A voice asks if he's still asleep. The moment he hears a woman's voice, he involuntarily remembers all the problems women caused him. You remember how women came into your room with different intentions. Nervously, he asks who's knocking on his door. In response, they say they came from the guild. He opens the door, and a girl with light hair and hairstyles carefully is ahead. Performing as Elsie Nova, she says she works with several units of adventurers and will take care of his business. He observes that he usually stays in the reception area of the guild and can be sought to help. Valt then realizes it and compares it to the housekeeper. Elsie doesn't understand and repeats once again that it is her duty to help. It's your duty to help him with various questions. Valt agrees hesitantly. Valt regrets the fact that he got involved in all that and sighs deeply. Elsie notes thoughtfully that Valt already has a reputation in the guild, a brilliant letter of recommendation, and that his guardian is Roswisa. The hero is very happy about this situation. Elsie comments that Valt could be a true knight, but the hero says he should be the one giving orders, not receiving them. She suggests he wants to be a military strategist. Valt says it's not quite that. She says in a friendly tone that Valt would be a great adventurer, to which he gets embarrassed and agrees with her. It's all been decided. She praises your fighting spirit. She advises him, a little unhandsome, to put on some clothes, and he realizes with horror that he stands before her only in his underwear. He asks why she did not tell this before, and she mistakenly assumes that it is some kind of ethnic custom or a joke. He reassures her, saying it's okay, and your confident shall dress you like a servant. She didn't understand, so helps him get dressed, and he praises her for her work, Elsie, without understanding the true behavior of the hero. Says laughing that Valt likes to be cared for. But by poking his nose with his index finger, he admonishes him not to turn his help into a habit. Blinking, she says now he should dress himself, which makes the hero very ashamed. Valt hides and says everything is wrong and doesn't want to be cared for. Elsie says he's very cute. Valt walks through the city center. Examining your adventurer's license, he doesn't believe he's an adventurer now. Reasoning that, in this world, this is the only way to make money without resorting to illegality. So he thinks that, being the Demon King, the laws mean nothing to him. He rejects that path for now. Someone calls him from behind. A beautiful girl with a fallen tail. Valt's decoration offers you a flower. He takes his hand, saying the flower is beautiful. To which the girl answers with gratitude. She says a flower costs 10 lions. The hero is looking for his wallet. When he realizes he's broke, apologizes to the girl, saying she's never been to town. Dark figures are approaching. Someone pushes the girl with indignation with so much force that she falls to the ground. All the flowers spread, and the unknown figure crushes the ground with its boot. Valt watches with displeasure. The strange reptilian jaw licks and bends into a smile. There are two armored lizards. One of them, with his mouth open, hovers over the girl, calling her the sweet elf Rika. He mocks his new job, saying good. The girl cries with resentment, and the lizard continues to mock, saying that she finally found a job that matches her, and that it's better not to use black magic, for it shames the guild. Another lizard stops him. He also mocks, warning that if they are seen talking to her, his reputation will be ruined. Then they prepare to leave, screaming that she no longer appears in the guild. Valt calls them stupid lizards. They saw each other without understanding who dared. The hero repeats his words, and they stare at him furiously. One of the lizards runs to him, looking down and screaming that he didn't dare call them stupid lizards. He mumbles that lizard men are as smart as everyone else, which makes the hero just laugh. The lizard asks indignantly what he thought was funny about it, to what the hero answers that this is a meaningless conversation. Noting that it is purposeless for the lizard, the hero casts a spell on the second lizard. The first one screams, without understanding what he did to his brother. The second lizard leans on the first, using a cute nickname and telling him to run away. Our guy laughs that his hand slipped. He just gave it temporary chicken effect. The first lizard is outraged by his words. The lizard, who was bewitched, attacks his companion with kisses. Saying you like him, the hero watches it in shock. The second lizard screams that the hero ruined his life, to which he replies that the effect of the spell will disappear in a month. But it gives no guarantees. The hero says it's just a status effect, and maybe he can fix it with magic. The lizard flees with his companion, screaming in horror that it has not yet finished him, and that it will heal him first. The crowd that observes this asks what happened, noting that these brothers are highly respected adventurers. The girl, in turn, jumps thanking the hero. The hero replies that there is no need to thank him, and give him the flower. He asks her if she's an adventurer, to which she sits nervously. He smiles and says he's happy to meet an adventurer like that, and that she should keep trying. She watches him leave, impressed by his ability. When you remember you're late. From Hortensia, Bertolin receives a call asking Rika to be at the branch office at 9 o'clock. Elsie says hello in the hall. Rika delivers the letter, and Elsie reads the contents with surprise. She notes that Rika, although problematic, has not caused problems lately. Elsie can't help wondering what all that means. She says she'll take Rika to the office. The girl comes in hesitant. Hortensia greets her in a friendly way. Lisa beckons Rika sweetly, saying she wants to ask her a favor. Hortensia says she'll offer you a task, which cannot be refused. If she refuses, Lisa threatens to take her adventurous license. The girl, scared, asks you not to. Hortensia reassures the elf that she will enjoy the mission. She says an adventurer was registered the day before. Ask Rika if she knows who she is. Elf says she heard rumors. The fox reveals that his name is Valt, and that, under certain circumstances, she doesn't know much about him. The only thing she can say is that he's incredibly strong, and that if he wants to, he can destroy the whole country and the whole world. Rika holds her face in horror, saying it's scary. Hortensia, pretending to be nice, asks her to watch Val. Rika runs out of shock words, saying that this is absolutely impossible. Hortensia tries to calm her down by saying that, in reality, it's unlikely that Vault can destroy the whole world, and that that's just an expression. Lisa, by the way, asks Rika how much money she has. Hortensia repeats the question, and the elf can't respond, sweating nervously. She shows her wallet and says there are 13 Ryans in it. Rika hides her eyes with disgust, and Hortensia laughs at her and says that with that money she can only buy bean pastries. She reminds the elf of her embarrassment on Business Street, when she ran out of money and crawled down the floor, trying to find out if Shed dropped a coin. Rika asks indignant how the fox knows that. Hortensia presses her to remember that she has elfic blood and asks what she thinks of such behavior. She leans on the girl, asking her to give up the adventurous profession. Rika's eyes spread. Hortensia suggests she's looking for a job in the entertainment district, to which Rika answers with tears that being adventurous is her dream, and that she wants to do nothing else. She always admired a character from a children's book, a black magician. Your mother supports your desire, despite being very ill. Rika says her father left on a journey and never came back. Tears fall out of her eyes while she says she needs to make money to live and send it to her mother for treatment. Hortensia sighs, calling her a very shy but stubborn cat. She points out that this makes Reiki even more likely to accept the request. Showing you a valuable currency. Rika looks at the coin the fox holds between her fingers with admiration. She understands that, with her, she can pay all bills and debts, in addition to sending money to her sick mother. Hortensia asks if she agrees. Rika still feels insecure. Lisa points out there's no cause for tension. The mission you're giving her is top secret, but you think an elf would be suitable for the job. She starts talking about how humans and comrades suck, and that if it were Rika, no one would suspect anything because of its simplicity. She notes that because of the body structure, Rika is not a good person. People will treat you kindly. Rika's sure the two things aren't related. To what Hortensia replies that they are. But in the end, she only says that Rika is the right person for the job. The elf feels the pressure and mentally apologizes to Vault. She, in spite of everything, wants to remain an adventurer and accepts the offer, saying she will accept the mission. The fox throws a coin at her, calling her decision wise when she reaches out to take the coin. She bounces back towards Hydrania. Rika undoubtedly supposes it's gravity magic. She cries in tears that the fox is too cruel and doesn't understand why she likes to tease her so much. Lisa pushes Rika playfully, confirming her words by saying that her crying face is the best. Hortensia tells Rika to contact Vault first. Using his own methods, Shell set up the next meeting in 3 days. 3 days later, Elsie goes to Vault. She knocks on his door, asking him to open it. It opens with a question. Wondering why there's so much attention first thing in the morning. To what the girl asks how he feels. He says he's fine, and he's surprised she came just to ask that, "You're glad you got dressed in time this time?" The girl responds with understanding. At first, she's glad he's okay, but then she changes the subject, saying it's been 3 days since they last met. She says his license was issued 3 days ago, but he didn't accept any assignments. He says she's overreacting, and it takes a while to explain. She asks him to tell her why. He reflects on how, in the past, he had to do exhaustive work without days off, but in this world, everything is different. In this world, nobody complains about how you live. He realized how to explain everything correctly to her while she was waiting for an answer. He says with confidence that all needs are paid for by the guild, and even the insects frightened by it have disappeared. So he has no need to start working, and even in the bedroom, the factors that irritated him disappeared. He got used to it. Elsie screams that at this rate, he will become a useless person. He resents the comparison with a useless human being. The girl scolds him, saying that the guild's support has its limits, and that he cannot live like this forever. She notes that if he does not have enough points, his license may be withdrawn. He's surprised by that statement. She decides they need to go to the guild immediately. Her pressure makes the hero lose his mind. She tells him she'll turn Volt into a real adventurer. The hero is not happy with that fate. She pulls him down the hall to the exit, promising to teach him kindly while he tries to refuse. They get to the guild building. There aren't many people around, most of them at the tables eating. Volt looks at the warning board. And you realize there are no missions worth it. Elsie replies that, as adventurers begin early, the most favorable missions have already been caught by them, especially those who compete for survival. The girl observes that the harder the task, the more expensive she is. Volt asks about the availability of something that allows to make money quickly. The girl says, with disapproval, he shouldn't do that. She tells him that, despite everything, he's still a rookie, so he should take on proper tasks to get an idea of the job. The girl offers you a proper one. He looks at the task and asks, with displeasure, whether mushroom hunting is suitable for a person like him. She explains that this is the way of everything, every novice, and that the attitude of thinking he's the strongest will only lead to destruction. Volt is not satisfied, but acknowledges that she is trying to convince him, then leaves for the mission. Elsie quickly stops him. She reminds him of the equipment, but he says he didn't need it in the last 2 battles, and he won't have any problems. She almost gets carried away by his words, but then tumbling body on wooden stairs. Elsie asks, worried, if she's okay. Volt says hello, Rika. Disgruntled, sit down and look at them, saying she's okay. But you recognize him as the man who helped you and you thank him again. Elsie's surprised they met. Volt says he just reached out. Rika, a first-class black mag, presents herself with her full name as Henrika Estalando. Volt points out her nickname, and she thanks him again. He presents himself with his full name in response, saying that she can call him Volt. Rika recognizes the name, which is related to his mission. Volt realizes that her face has paled, and that she needs care. She tries to pretend it's okay, and complains about meeting him so soon. Elsie turns to Rika. She asks Rika to help Volt with a mission for beginners. Elsie says that since Rika is an elf, her ability to collect medicinal plants can be useful in the evaluation of mushrooms. Volt doesn't understand Elsie's intentions. Rika shyly says she's a half-elf. Elsie, concerned, suggests that Rika, however, is busy, to which she responds negatively. The girl is very happy with the current circumstances. But Volt isn't that much. Rika asks if he's happy with someone like her. Elsie ensures that Rika is a reliable adventurer, and he reassures himself by accepting her on his team. The girl asks you not to say that, and then turning to Rika asks her not to use magic. Rika agrees embarrassedly. Volt asks again if she's a black magician, but Elsie says no. Rika is not happy with the current circumstances, but Volt is even less. Elsie minimizes, saying it's something just between them. The hero has a bad feeling about this. Rika asks, devastated, if there's a reason for a magician who has no hope in magic. Elsie looks at her worried. She tries to cheer the girl up by saying that Rika has good qualities even without it. Elsie compliments her cuteness and style, and Rika gets upset that it has nothing to do with her work as an adventurer. Elsie suggests that she switch from occupation to dancer, but the girl quotes stage fright. Volt asks if she's a black magician, and she says no. Volt thinks the two girls are completely opposed. Nearby, a group of people are joyfully celebrating. They surrounded and beat up a goblin. The boy with the shaved temples turns his attention to Rika, acknowledging it as the elf of friendly fire, as they call it mockingly among themselves. He says he doesn't believe Rika is still an adventurer, and he regrets that his mood has worsened. They begin to mock Rika, who lowers his head, holding tears, saying that the guild should give him a hunting mission. Elsie observes with regret. Volt thinks she's a black magician. Elsie is on his team now. Bold casts a spell on them. Volt decides that insulting a man he considers his subordinate is an insult to himself. The glass breaks, and they scream with fear. People around can't understand why the glass broke. Volt, smiling, and in a warning tone, suggests that some vandal threw a stone out the window. The guy with the shaved temple starts screaming that they're in the capital, and asks about Volt. They gather, tense. Volt thinks of how to teach them a lesson. Elsie asks if anyone was hurt, and they tell her everything's fine, except for the shrapnel on the floor. The hooligan group is leaving. Rika is full of gratitude, while Elsie turns to him with disapproval. She asks if he broke the glass. He proudly confirms it. Volt thinks she'll compliment him, but Elsie's not in the mood for that. She says, accuse her, next time she'll charge him for repairs, and that you need to clean up quickly. Rika and Volt are about to leave before Elsie gets back. Volt calls out loud, and she admits shyly that she hasn't eaten since last night. Volt says you haven't had breakfast either, and you can't fight on an empty stomach. There, in the woods, Volt's eating a sandwich. Rika asks him what happened in the commercial district. She's surprised to hear he had the payment transferred to the guild. The forest interests you. The hero says he received permission from Elsie to receive guild support until he began making money on his own. The Forest Alni is both a tourist destination and a place for beginners. Volt thinks that judging from the road built, it is obvious that many adventurers have already passed through there. Volt concludes that the forest is too calm. Scared monsters watch them through the bushes. What scares Rika? He tries to calm her down, saying that since you're under his command, you can rest easy. She thanks you. He wants to add an essay on the forest to Lizirigana, and asks if the local vegetation feeds on people and animals. She doesn't understand what he's talking about. He explains that such plants are normal for the forest. It gives the example of a tree that can swallow an entire person, and Rika gets scared, asking in which world there is such a fairy tale. Volt says this is his home world, and he knows him well. The girl screams in fear, saying she doesn't want to offend him. He reassures her, saying it's okay. Rika looks at him with suspicion, convinced he's not normally. She observes that even monsters try to avoid it. The hero turns to Rika and asks her to look. They are on the edge of a lake, in the middle of which a leafy tree grows on an island. Volt calls admire the place picturesque. Rika says, this is Lake Alna. a famous tourist spot. According to the request, this island is the meeting place, for the plant is an angelic tree near which grows the mushroom-wise spirit. She offers him the boat, but Volt says it's not necessary. Calling Rika to him, she thinks they're going swimming, but the hero takes her in his arms. Rika is ashamed, but happy to be carried like a princess. Volt alert to be careful, and it's now D. Volt drives from the ground and flies high over the lake. It lands on the island and put Rika down. The girl falls weak on the ground. Volt asks if everything's okay. She answers, tired. She's stunned. He says that's excellent and suggests they look for the mushroom site. Right now, large armored beetles jump off the ground behind them. Rika doesn't understand why the divine tree has moths, but claims it's a monster. She assumes everyone has fled from Volt to this island, and now they're attacking out of desperation. She worries that if there are so many monsters, not even Volt will be able to face them. Decides to use a spell, praying to the god of the flames Ignika, and pressing hands against the ground where a pattern appears. Volt tries to reach the elf, but she's already finishing her spell, raising her hand in front and asking God to save her. Her fireball magic causes flames to be launched in the shape of a sphere, attacking the enemy. And she realizes, horrified, who broke his promise to Elsie not to use magic. It all starts to burn. She screams for Volt, who was at the spot where her attack hit. Rika was blessed with a lot of mana from the beginning. She admired the black magicians and the books, and did everything to become like them and realize her dream. However, there was a situation in which she looked at her flame with tears in her eyes, amid people's screams. They were the painful groans of their companions, struck by friendly fire during a mission. Maybe it was because of the tension, but all your attacks turned out to be wide area spells. It was easy to imagine what might happen if she panicked in front of an unexpectedly strong enemy. None of your comrades died that day. In fact, it's possible that without her attack, the enemy would have defeated them. This mission could have been considered a success if the outcome were the only thing that mattered. But the fact that she hurt the people who trusted her sparked hatred in their hearts, and ironically dubbed her the Elf of Friendly Fire. Since then, rumors about Rika have begun to spread. When she remembers the past, she cries and grabs the ground, asking forgiveness without stopping. She regrets having wounded an ally again, and is convinced that she should not have become a black magician. Rika cries and regrets having dragged Volt for that. The hero appears beside her, covered in ashes, and asks what happened. Confused, she walks away from him, thinking he's a ghost. He tells her not to think he's dead. Chapter 4. The girl hits her head on the floor in a bow, asking for forgiveness, and says it is not worthy to be a black magician, to which Volt answers that she is wrong. Shaking the dust, Volt says that people who despise her, including herself, are wrong, and that their attacks cannot even be considered friendly fire. He explains what friendly fire it would be if she killed 30,000 of her soldiers with a direct blow. The hero says Hell set an example of light. He says he accidentally ripped off his father's right arm. She jumps surprised. He assures her that her father's arm grew again immediately. The girl thinks maybe he wants to cheer her up, not completely believing her story. Volt adds with a smile that her magic neither hurts nor itches. The hero explains, satisfied that her mana is superior to that of a normal human, and that if she trains, she can destroy an elite army with a single blow. Rika screams in disbelief. Vault says she has plenty of room to grow, which depends only on her, and that she may even become the king's court wizard. Rika doesn't understand anything, but she's glad Volt's okay and gives her a handkerchief. Volt gets the handkerchief, cleaning up because it's pretty dirty. He then looks at the blackened fabric with doubt and thinks, "If it was someone else in your place, you'd probably be dead," Rika screams loudly. They observe while the tree of Enzel burns. Volt commented skeptically that not even the divine tree could resist such an attack. Rika holds her face in fear, not knowing what to do. Rika starts crying and bowing down to Volt, saying that although they haven't been together long, she's happy to have met him. "And thank you for your support." Volt asks why she's crying. She explains that burning the tree is a serious crime for which she will be sentenced to death. She sadly says that as an elf, protector of the forest, she committed such a sin, and now her whole family can die. Volt tries to cheer her up and asks why she doesn't think of a solution to the problem. The girl screams, without understanding what she can do. Volt suggests sitting quietly and running, to which Rika replies that the guild knows where she is. Faced with this, the hero says the only option left is execution. The hero tells the girl to take her mother with her when she escapes. She says she'd rather give herself up and ask for mercy for her mother. Volt answers that this is stupid. To what the girl screams that this is her characteristic, he starts saying he doesn't feel any bad feeling. At that moment, the burned tree falls. Volt adds that he has no ill will against fools, and turns just when the tree flies towards it. The hero holds the log with one hand so as not to be crushed, saying it's nothing. The girl's attention turns to something. A little blonde girl with wings falls unconscious from the charred trunk. Rika says that's the soul of the divine tree. Volt holds it and squeezes it with his other hand. Your maneuver surprises Rika. She doesn't understand how a human can see and touch a spirit. The little girl regains consciousness. Rika asks Volt why he treats her like an insect. The hero ignores her and asks the spirit to return to the tree. She says she can't do that. She can't come back because the tree was burned by hellfire. She regrets the gravity of this act and suggests that it is a sign that the world is ending and a war began on the edge of the world. Volt immediately asks what needs to be done to help. She says she needs a mana of 100 elves. Rika panics. And Volt thinks that the knowledge of Lizarek, encyclopedias from another world, would be very useful. The hero says if all it takes is Sis, then he's ready to use it, is ready to give as much as it takes. She repeats with doubt that a person's mana is not enough, but Volt interrupts it, explaining that he's not an ordinary person, and orders her to accept and thank him. He begins to pour mana into the tree through his hands, wishing the spirit a good appetite. The spirit feels a powerful and pleasant wave of strength. I don't understand what's in the boy who's the source of this mana. She notices that the mana is rough and strong, but fills the tree well. Volt points out with interest that the tree is now sucking mana on its own. The spirit departs joyfully. The tree blooms with renewed vigor, even more beautiful than before. Rika watches this show with amazement. Without understanding how this could happen, the happy spirit announces that the divine tree has been reborn. Volt exhales tired, asking the spirit how she feels. She says she'll live much longer now. He says, "Hell, live another 10 to 100,000 years and give him a branch with an apple-like fruit in thanks." Rika, surprised, recognizes the fruit. Volt asks her about it with interest. The girl explains that it's a legendary class item that can only be seen once every 1,000 years. Gentle breeze, rustling leaves. Volt wants to pick the fruit, but weakens in the middle of the sentence and begins to fall. Rika can hold him, and the hero faints in his arms. She calls your name, worried. The spirit explains that he donated an enormous amount of mana and lost consciousness because of it. She suggests they rest under the branches of her tree. The girl whispers carefully to Walt that he should rest. "Because you deserve it." The hero opens his eyes slowly. He realizes he's lying on the girl's lap. Rika notes he's awake and asks how he is. The boy admits he's not in the best shape, but he says that's not a problem. The girl advises him to get some more rest. Walt says that instead of resting, I'd like to eat something. The boy offers to pick mushrooms, to which the girl agrees. He finds one that looks tasty. Rika says, "No way, it's poisonous." All the following mushrooms he shows you also turn out to be poisonous. The elf explains that many poisonous mushrooms are beautiful to see and pleasant smell. Walt agrees and thanks Rika for saving his life by stopping him from eating the poison. The girl denies it, changing the subject. She says you need to make it worth your while. Walt says it's okay, 'cause they're free. But the girl keeps insisting until he interrupts her, saying she needs to eat something. Walt remembers the gift of the spirit and reaps the fruit from the tree, saying it looks delicious. She warns you that the item is actually very rare and advises him to take you to an antique store. Walt answers that they can't afford to waste their spirit. The hero argues that no matter how expensive it is still a fruit and they should not waste it. He points to the stunning view of the island and observes that it is possible to eat a delicacy directly from the tree while enjoying the landscape. The boy adds that it is elegant to enjoy such a meal, to what Rika thinks he is speaking as a member of the royal family. Understanding his state of mind, the girl offers him an apple. Walt looks at her surprised and says, "Hell share." She looks at the fruit with admiration, unable to eat it. The girl says she's believing what she sees, considering it an honor to have to try it. The girl initially refuses, but Walt delivers it to her to cut into 2 parts. Finally, she agrees and grab a knife, starting to cut the apple in half. The girl gives her share to Walt. The hero praises her and takes the fruit to the mouth to take a bite. Rika observes as if it were an historic moment. Walt says it's hard to eat with her staring at him like that. He suggests they do it together on the count of 3. When the countdown ends, they bite their halves. Together, they celebrate the delicious taste of fruit. Walt feels so good. It seems to be floating. Your eyes shine with pleasure. They keep chewing the fruit. Rika starts crying over her feelings. Tears of happiness flow from her eyes, and she, in an unknown tongue, says she is happy to be alive. Walt asks about it, but she tells you to forget everything you've heard, explaining that it's your family dialect. Walt doesn't think she has to hide it. He turns to her again, saying he will remain an adventurer. Reach out to her, and with a joyful smile, invite her to become her servant. The girl asks again, and he confirms he wants her to join him. The flow of tears intensifies as she looks at Walt, with her eyes wide open. She starts crying, and Walt, confused, asks why. Drowning, she smiles brightly. saying it's the first time anyone's told her something like that. She's very happy. Volt points out she's overreacting. He encourages her to say that her dark magic has done her no harm. Volt assures them that they will free her from the oppressive nickname and tell her not to save effort for it. They shake hands joyfully. Rika thanks you again. At the northeast end of the Kingdom of Ligal, on the Veldana mountain range, snow falls, covering the stone hills. In a small wooden house under a cliff, a girl says she believes your mother's prediction was correct. The girl is standing by the table. The house is slightly foggy. She talks about how the prophecies were written about the great master of the demons. And if it is true, she needs to be sure. A small stone-like creature with an eye patch and sheep's horns goes to the girl, calling her Dasha and asking if she will go to the capital. The girl admits she hates crowds. She casts a powerful spell. Everything around you flies away. With a sly smile, she says this trip will be worth it. Volt is lying in bed in his room, bored. Elsie insisted that he rest for at least a week after spending too much cis. He was killing time in Sayajina, but he also got bored with it. An idea arises in your mind. He decides he's going into town and jumps out the window to the ground, scaring the cattle. He tries to be quiet because he shouldn't be discovered. He likes to be able to prepare quickly to leave. Unlike his previous world, where it would take several hours to find him. He climbs again to the hill, admiring the beautiful view of the city and the main castle. Volt dreams in a day to own a castle and paint the walls black. His stomach snores, and he realizes he hasn't had breakfast. He looks in his wallet and estimates the value, considering he shared the reward with Rika, was small. While eating a sandwich on a crowded street, he thinks about armor. Elsie keeps telling him, and he checks your finances to think about it. After breakfast, you have 2,000 Rayoni left. He understands that he won't be able to buy a new armor with that value, and he won't be able to take it from the guild either. The boy thinks of armor that can resist Rika's dark magic, and wonders if it would be better simply to buy new clothes after each mission. He reflects that he needs to correct Rika's habit of creating sudden explosions, whose effects he has already felt on himself. Volt walks the street, thinking that practical training would suit Rika better, and that improvement can only come with repetition. The hero believes that if Rika grows up as a black magician, she will become very useful. He believes this is for her own good. Looking around, the hero realizes he wandered down an unknown street. The moment the hero plans to return to the main street, one hears a scream warning him of danger. A scream comes from above, and he observes, shocked, while a girl in a cute white dress turns out the window. Volt extends hands instinctively. It falls directly into your arms. The girl thanks him for his name, and is surprised they met at that place. Volt doesn't recognize her here. The boy puts her down and asks how she knows her name. She's amazed he didn't recognize her. And drop your hair. Understanding comes in the eyes of the hero. Her hair falls freely behind her back, and the hero finally recognizes her as Iris. She points out that Volt usually realizes this kind of thing. He justifies himself by saying that he only remembers her as an adventurer. The girl shares that she knows he graduated from school on the first day, and also asks if he started doing his chores. The hero answers affirmatively. Sounds are heard from the depths of the street. Volt looks around. Volt wonders if any kind of battle is taking place. Iris responds hesitantly, that's not it. He feels something is wrong, looking at Iris' depressed expression. The girl wants to ask him something. to what Volt says he owes her for becoming her guardian, so Hell agree anyway. Iris looks closely at the hero and asks him to become his kidnapper. Volt is shocked by this request. Armored men appear behind them, screaming for the boy to get away from Iris. He turns to them with displeasure. They shout that he is not the person the girl should talk to, and that they will not have mercy if the hero resists. Volt asks the girl who these people are. With a dark countenance, she says these people are evil, and they're trying to capture her. Volt confidently says that hearing the soldiers' racket annoys him, and, taking Iris' hand in his, declares to her that he will kidnap her. The girl looks back with gratitude. Volt takes Iris in his arms and runs away from the soldiers, who try to reach them. Heroes see that a group of soldiers is also appearing ahead, and Iris warns Volt with concern about it, so he calms her down and tells her to hold on. The boy drives from the ground and jumps high, flying over the soldiers. They look at the boy with amazement and can't believe he's an ordinary person. The order is given to capture the heroes anyway. Volt tries to blend in with the crowd. Volt notices the girl's distinctive outfit and suggests changing her dress for something else when he runs into a nearby store. Iris admits with embarrassment that he doesn't have his wallet. To what the hero answers that he can help pay. He's not sure if 2,000 ryans will be enough because he doesn't understand the prices of women's clothes. They keep running and are noticed by a well-dressed girl in a hat. She recognizes the girl in Volt's arms as Iris and calls her by name. Volt stops and puts it down. Girl says Iris isn't usually seen with a man. Volt suggests that the girl is also a stalker. Iris assures you that she's your friend. The girl presents herself as Shiran. Volt realizes that girls are really close. They're all standing together in a corner. Volt's on his back, protecting the entrance, while the girls behind him do something out of his sight. He instigates Iris, warning her that soldiers may be arriving soon. She asks him to wait. He doesn't feel comfortable with Iris remembering the map of the capital and knowing places where no one else is. It was she who led them to this narrow street. She's the one who had the idea to change clothes with Sharon, so they ended up in this place. Volt can't believe Iris is going to change his appearance just by changing clothes in an alley. While the girls are changing their clothes, Iris comments that the boy was surprised to hear that Sharon is heir to the castle of the Demon King. Shiran notes that this is the first time anyone has shown such interest in the name of the bar. Volt is surprised, thinking of something completely different. Shiran says he never would have imagined he was the promising newcomer. Girls praise each other's appearance and play with each other. Volt is ashamed to think he can hear everything they say. The boy nervously asks if Iris has finished changing Jen. Volt turns around and sees Shironen. He looks at her, surprised. Iris' dress is a little tight in the chest area, and she says she expected it to get weird. The boy begins to murmur, ashamed. Iris apologizes and gives you a coat. Chiron says it's okay, understanding the whole situation. She feels better after wearing her coat. Shiran is leaving. Volt and Iris are left alone, drawing up a new plan of action. Welt hesitates, questioning if you really want to know about her situation. He asks if she wants him to ask. She says no, squeezing the dress bar with her hand. The boy reassures her, saying that until she wants to tell everything herself, she doesn't have to, placing his hand on your head in support. Iris smiles and thanks him, to which he, ashamed, answers that there is no need. Iris asks why he came into town first. Volt says he'd like to visit the armor shop. The girl offers to take him to the store she always attends. She takes her hand and, smiling, pulls him in the right direction, Walt follows her willingly. They arrive at a store called Dragon God Scales. Walt warns you there's very little money. The girl responds that the inspection has no cost. They come in, and Iris greets the owner. Doman is an older man, a strong man with short hair and a beard. He greets the heroes and turns his attention to the girl, recognizing her as Iris. You're surprised to see the girl came along with a boy. Iris explains that you're acting as his guardian, introducing Walt to the man as a new adventurer. Doman hears a familiar name. And remember that the whole town was talking about him as the newcomer who defeated the dragon. Iris says Walt wants to see the armor. Doman asks how much money he has with you. The boy specifies that he has 2,000 Ryan. The owner smiles and says that for that price, he can only offer old gloves. The protagonist clarifies that he does not do useless shopping and wants to know if the merchant has something to protect against magic. The merchant asks if he heard correctly, for protection from magic. Having heard the dialogue, Iris decides to get closer to men. She's very interested in why the boy needed protection from magic. The protagonist clarifies that, after all, there is a reason. He asks if the girl knows Henrika Estelanda. Iris suggests Walt wants to work with the LFL. But the boy doesn't want to jump to conclusions. He explains the situation. The girl understands that the boy wants to protect himself more from magic than from weapons, to which he answers affirmatively. Iris asks permission to approach the protagonist, receiving a confused look and a question, "Why?" She just hugs him, leaving the boy extremely embarrassed. The girl feels the boy's skin carefully. The protagonist blushes and tries to understand what the girl is doing. Even the owner covered his red face with shame. The situation was uncomfortable for the boy. Iris just expresses the idea that there's something strange about Walt's body. The boy doesn't understand what she's talking about. He wonders what's so unusual about his body. Who receives the answer that there is a thin layer of magical energy under his skin? Maybe that's the secret of your strength. Walt did not know about his abilities. Iris just expresses the thought that most likely that's his innate ability. The girl decides to help the boy and asks him to imagine that clothes are his skin. Maybe that way he can expand his protective barrier. While Walt expresses doubts, he thinks he's definitely not gonna make it. Iris only supports him because until he tries, he certainly won't know anything about his abilities. And he insists on trying right there and now. The boy throws a disapproving look at her. But still he focuses on his feelings and tries to imagine that clothes are his skin. As the girl advised, he feels like he's found the right wave. He feels a strange thread around his body. Walt found his magical layer of protection. All that was missing was extending it throughout his body. As the boy prepares, Iris decides to look at the guns. The seller clarifies that he is selling armor. But still, a sword was found. With concern for the return of the owner, he delivers the sword to her. Leaving this thought aside, he asks the girl to show her skills, to which she readily agrees and removes the sword from the sheath. Iris, with his serious face, made a strong blow with the sword, aiming directly at Walt's hand. The sword reached his hand and broke into several thousand pieces with a loud and resounding sound. A piece of the sword got stuck in the ceiling. All three are enchanted with Walt's new protective layer, because now he's no longer in danger. The merchant wants to know who will pay for this sword now, and throws the couple a bored and disgruntled look. Of course, the former owner will charge Iris for losing his sword, and if the merchant finds him, he will deliver it. The boy is surprised by the situation. Walt and the girl insinuate clumsily that they will surely return the payment for the sword, but definitely not in the near future. The merchant sighs of disappointment at the two pleading looks. He quickly expels them into the street as far away from himself as possible. Both leave the building quickly, as Walt now has his own force field. He doesn't need to take anything else there, and he can leave. Iris comments that it is not right to leave without paying, but it seems that out of respect for Walt, the merchant did not insist on payment. The boy comments that Doman is a good and severe man, a merchant who certainly understands his trade. The girl suggests going to a gun store she knows. Iris says he often goes there, and the sword he sent to sharpen should be ready by now. Walt agrees. The girl quickly pulled him by the hand toward the store. The boy did not expect such pressure, and almost fell with her energy. While the couple ran, Rika noticed them in the crowd. She wonders why Walt is with Iris now. Remember Tanisha's words that time is passing, and that he probably found a new companion. The girl gets lost in thoughts, imagining that Walt and Iris are now happy together. So, what does that mean? She realizes she's very jealous. Hits his fists against his own head, trying to convince himself that Iris is just accompanying him. But still, a brilliant idea comes up, that one day Rika and Walt will become the best wizards, fighting side by side. She decides that this is the time to calm down, but she cannot contain herself and runs after them. The main characters arrived at a small cozy gun shop called War God's Song. Walt asks Iris if this is really his favorite store, and he gets a positive answer. The boy is surprised at the size of the store. The couple is received politely. A cute girl with cat ears recognizes Iris and tries to understand what kind of mask ball she's doing. The girl shows surprise with the boy next to her friend. She's never seen him before. The girl with cat ears expresses her envy. Iris just turns to Corinne to calm her down. The girl introduces Walt as a newcomer and says she's helping him settle down. Corinne thinks that's your friend's boyfriend. The girl with ears sighs because the couple only brings losses. Corinne says openly that Walt is very cute and goes far. The girl says there's a lot of rumors about the boy, but leaving that thought aside, asks Iris what she's looking for there. Corinne gives her friend the sharp sword, saying it will serve her for a long time. Iris thanks her friend and asks to leave the bill with the guild. Receiving a thank you in return, Corinne decides to find out if Walt needs anything. When asking about his previous weapons, the boy shares that he was fighting with a sword. The kitten offers the boy a relatively wide blade, which, according to her, is suitable for both beginners and experienced warriors. Corinne plays by saying that the sword is as wide as its soul. Iris realized that the girl didn't sell Seamus blades, because she said she wanted nothing to do with them. Corinne jokes that it's very profitable to sell them. Corinne says the most important thing is that the swords are light and comfortable to hold in hand. As soon as Walt caught the sword in her hands, she suddenly broke into 1,000 pieces, causing panic in the cattle. The boy wonders if it's a forgery. Corinne only trembles to see that his sword was broken like a stick. Iris expresses dissatisfaction with the title of Greatest Forge. The cat responds to the provocation and wants to know what happened. But the girl doesn't know either and thinks the problem is in Val. Iris asks if he suddenly lost control of his power. Walt's not sure. The girl suggests to take another sword. The boy agrees and takes another sword in his hands. The sword breaks again in his hand. Corinne panics because his swords break so easily. The cat faints. Iris tries to catch her friend. The cat is sad. His swords are broken, his poor shop destroyed. Meanwhile, Iris finds out with Walt which sword he used before. The girl doesn't believe there's a sword that can hold her power. Walt reveals that used a sword made from a special mineral called the demon stone, but is not sure if that stone exists in this world. Corinne thinks with fear in his eyes about losing 2 masterpieces from his shop. Walt says they need a special mineral that reacts unusually to the manifestations of magic. Iris thinks about it. The girl thinks an oriental scimitar sword would be appropriate. Corinne praises the girl for such a clever thought, and shares that she also thought of that sword, and Walt discovered how such a sword is called in this world. Iris says what Walt calls the Devil's Stone is extracted only from a mine in the east. The mineral is similar to magical steel. This ore is used for the Eastern scimitar. Walt happily asks Corinne if she has a sword like that, to which she responds negatively, although it is unlikely that she has such a sword in her shop. Corinne is not sure, because a sword like this cannot be used without special skills, and it is not certain that there is even one of those swords in the region. And she adds that if there is one, the price will be enormous. Iris clarifies that all this is because magical steel extraction requests are very rare. The boy understood. Walt concludes that he first needs to get the order, get some mineral for himself, and then find a craftsman to make the sword. Iris laughs quietly. The boy doesn't understand what's funny about what he said. The girl shares that now he thinks like one of them, and thinks that's funny. Walt swears none of this happened, but they are interrupted by Corinne, who draws attention to the cough. Corinne suggests discussing the 2 swords Walt broke, but the boy hesitated. Just like at the merchant's store, they both say they'll definitely return the money. Corinne explodes, thinking they rehearsed this speech as a play. The streets of this small town were crowded with people, each one slowly following his errands. Walt thinks that, with so many people, his stalkers will definitely not be able to find them. He tells Iris there's a lot of people on the street today. To what he gets the answer that today is a holiday. The boy is very interested. The girl says today is a great holiday, a day of prayers for the harvest. On a day like this, the goddess of fertility is asked for an abundant harvest. Walt had the feeling that everyone was just drinking and having fun, which wouldn't be surprising. Iris noticed something very appetizing, and Walt ran quickly towards the delicacies. The boy sees it for the first time and asks the girl what that is. He's surprised. She's surprised someone is hearing about crepes for the first time. The food, which resembles pancakes with a delicious filling inside, looks delicious, and Walt noted that they are convenient to eat in motion. Iris gets upset about not having any money. Walt offers to pay for it. The boy clarifies that this is a form of gratitude for going shopping today. The girl is happy and gratefully. Walt takes a small bite on the very tasty crepe. The pancake looks very appetizing on your hands. He really liked it. Iris told you this store has the most delicious crepes. Walt promises to remember this place. The boy understands it's really delicious. The girl thanks you again. Together, they spend a very pleasant time, sitting quietly on a bench with something sweet in their hands. Walt wants to share that his father also says so, but they are interrupted by the cry of the girl, who claims to have finally met Miss Iris. The couple looks confused towards the scream. The girl, with a severe intonation in her voice, asks why Iris is wearing plebeian clothes. They've been looking for her for a long time. The frowning eyebrows indicate that the girl is not very happy with this situation at the moment. Walt doesn't understand what's going on. Ranzanula almost orders her respectable lady to stop running from them. She asks the girl to come home, because his father is very concerned about her. He cares very much about his daughter. Walt has some kind of accomplishment. He turns his head towards Iris. The girl just lowers her eyes and apologizes. Ashamed, she apologizes for not being able to tell you sooner. your look transmitting that you're really sorry. The girl shares that her father dreamed she would have a rich life, but Iris always wanted to be a warrior, so she ran away from home. Thanks to her efforts, she has become who she is now. The boy doesn't like what he just heard. Valt wonders what she's gonna do now. Because in a situation like this, you need to think carefully about the next step. Anyway, whatever she chooses, hell always be there for her. The girl smiles. She thanks Valt for such kind words. Iris shares that he cannot really avoid problems forever, and gathers courage to talk to his father. And if he doesn't understand you, then she will leave her home forever. No matter what, she's ready to take that risky step. Valt just scratches his head. He understands Iris' intentions and has no intention of stopping her. He joked that if necessary could kidnap her again. The girl laughed and was inspired by this funny idea. Now she can count on him. Valt only agrees with this idea because has already done this once, so you can do a second. A girl is at the height of the roofs of the houses and watches people down there, the wind shaking her long dress. She says she's not wasting her time, and she's watching her daughter. The witch Brigham watches the people upstairs. She looks extremely majestic. The girl says there once was a country called Muschelheim, the country of the fire giants. Only they could live there. The giants came from mythical lands, twilight of the gods. That is Ragnarok. The world will be turned into an abyss by the one in whose hand the flaming sword will end. With a sinister smile on her lips, she says she will now have fun. The girl casts a spell and gives the order for the great giant of fire, Surt, to appear. Iris says goodbye to Valt. Now she goes to her father. She's sad to leave, but she has to. The guards are rushing Iris. Your father's already waiting. The boy settles down, but realizes something strange. As if the clouds were piling up too much on the capital, there was something very strange in heaven. Everything seems very strange. Something terrifying, loaded with a sinister aura. Something dangerous and scary. An invocation portal. Chapter 6. The Giant of Fire. From where a huge monster appears, the people's screams were loud. A huge, dangerous giant has descended directly from the sky. They all ran in different directions, like little insects, against the backdrop of such a majestic monster. Valt, with a calm face, decides to find out what caused the panic among people. He didn't immediately understand how serious the problem was. The boy thinks that's part of the celebration. Sounds like a performance. Ranzaluna scolds him hard, for this is definitely not a presentation. It's an emergency. Valt shares the thought that maybe this isn't really a presentation, while the giant fills with dark energy and gains strength. The huge monster swings his immense unhuman leg. He exudes a fierce desire to destroy. It won't spare anyone. Iris thinks of running to hell before the giant has time to attack. People flee the scene in great panic. The girl understands that she needs to save people. With fear in her eyes, she watches people panic. Everyone's trying to save themselves. Someone is saving their relatives. Iris considers it his duty to protect them, but he claims there's a stir in the royal capital, which means it's his responsibility to resolve it. Ranzaluna prevents her with concern, on the pretext that Iris is currently unarmed, and that she is not in the status of the young woman fighting now. The girl asks, what if she has a gun? Showing her brilliant sword, she's ready to attack the giant to save the people. Ranzaluna still forbids her to go to battle, for she doesn't even have armor. Someone calls Iris. Lutessa comes running to the rescue, along with her faithful mascot. The girl says a huge creature attacked the city and asks if anyone knows what it is. Ranzaluna doesn't know anything about this monster either. She shares the thought that Mrs. Gerda may know. Bolt looks up. A condensing circle of energy appeared above his head. It looked like a portal. The girl, who looked like a witch, fell right into the boy's arms. She seemed completely calm. It was discovered that it was the witch Gerda, and now she was in place, her face expressing total tranquility even in such a situation. Volt thinks it was said it was forbidden to use magic in the city. Is it really an emergency? Gerda is scolded to get out of the boy's hands. The girl apologizes and, under the pretext that she was comfortable sitting there, comes down from his hands. Gerda is questioned about what kind of giant that is. She must know exactly what kind of creature she is. The girl says that's the giant's sword. It says it is one of the great giants of fire that bring destruction and discord. These are the creatures invoked from the highest class. Lutes's eyes spread. A monster like that is extremely difficult to invoke. The girl shares her concern. Whoever has invoked the giant must be captured immediately. Gerda answers that it is useless because the caller is too strong. She says this is a magic of the highest level, and that it must have a high view of the site. Iris realizes they have no choice but to destroy the giant. Ranselna says that's not true, since this has come out of the jurisdiction of the adventuress. She also adds that the night guard would arrive. Iris wants to protest, but Lutessa says quickly that he is on Iris' side. Their dialogue is abruptly interrupted by Volt. He remembers that, while arguing, the giant is destroying the city, and that they need to act urgent. Iris understands that every second is important, and tries to come up with a plan to slow everything down, at least a little bit. But Volt interrupts the girl's monologue. He says her enthusiasm is admirable, but there's one thing. To fight the giants, they need to develop a strategy. Volt reflects on the fact that it is not particularly linked to real capital. But there are many people who live there for whom he is grateful. A lot of people took care of him there. Warm memories associated with capital come to mind. You might say it's almost your home, but most of all he's grateful for the delicious food. And he's not happy that a monster can do whatever he wants there, in a place where so many kind and supportive people live. Paul shares that he has an idea, and that will clearly be more useful than his discussions, determination shining in his eyes. The houses of ordinary residents are covered by a wave of intense fire. More and all could be reduced to ashes. Lutessa screams loudly to draw the attention of the giant, showing that his opponent is right in front of him. Sitting on her pet, she directs flows of her magic to attack the creature, using all the force of her powers, fire directly into the legs of the beast. The girl understands that magic bullets are useless against the monster. Closing her jaws, she tries to think of a new method to fight the giant. Lutessa, covering one of his eyes, decides to aim directly at the monster. The girl raises her gun and points it at the giant. The aim is directed to a part of the joint. Shoots, but it didn't work. The bullet hit, but melted rapidly on the monster's paws. The girl is in great shock because her bullet was destroyed in an instant. The monster didn't even notice. Lutessa understands that this trick will definitely no longer work against him. He urgently needs to come up with another tactic. Iris runs towards the giant to attack. She squeezes your gun harder, jumping to the creature. She strikes with her sword as soon as you touch the giant's leg. Lava began to cover the sword in an attempt to melt it. Giant members appeared to be pure lava. The girl became too hot due to his powerful force. The girl retreated from the attack, moving away from the giant. Iris didn't even scratch it. A normal sword would have melted by now. Is the giant really completely invulnerable? Lutessa shouts to Iris that the creature is really strange, and she jumps from her previous hiding place. The girl reveals that she looks like a giant flame, feels like she's wrapped in armor, and is also not affected by physical blows. Lutessa holds Iris by the shoulders and claims they need to follow Volt's plan and distract the giant. That's all you can do now. Iris' eyes shine with determination. Her gaze says she is ready for battle. She walks confidently ahead, leading Lutessa behind you. Iris is about to show the full power of the White Cavalry, and attacks with Schwan and Flugel. The strong energy involves space with its intense strength. Ranzaluna closes his fists, realizing that he arrived too late, because Iris is already in battle. She blames herself for not being able to help her master. Volt interrupts her monologue and advises her to calm down. He tells her to calm down, but she doesn't. They decided to lure the giant and counterattack him, chasing the knight. Saying that she cannot trust her companions, Ranzaluna closes her jaw in anger. Volt hears someone calling him. In his head, it was a female voice. It is found that Iris only activated his ability for a short time. The giant will chase the girl while she distracts her attention for as long as possible. Iris lures the giant closer to the right point to arrest him. Just as Volt instructed, he's ready to attack. All you need to do is wait until the giant is brought into your hands. In front of the boy and Ranzaluna, a giant appeared. A massive figure advancing, destroying everything in its path. He wants to destroy everything. The clawed hand of a huge monster is visible. He's been trying to catch the girls he's been chasing all this time. Iris and Lutessa shout that they brought the giant right into Volt's hands, who is already waiting for him and ready to start his plan. He warns Gerda to act. She accepts the warning. The girl begins to conjure up a spell, invoking the dark god Barasa to hear her call, a spell to summon a trap for the giant. The gates of Tartarus open, creating a barrier around the giant. Now he definitely won't get away. It fell into the Heros' hands. Volt praised Gerda, calling her a pretty little witch. The giant is trapped for a while. He definitely won't be able to get out. Ranzaluna, Iris and Lutessa were ready to fight. With confidence, they were prepared to fight. With determined looks, they watched the giant, which was within a powerful barrier. Volt kept saying that the giant's performance was over. The monster was preparing to fight. The monster screamed loudly. Looks like some kind of summoning spell. The team notices and pays attention to the salamander invoked. The giant conjured assistance for himself. Ranzaluna emphasizes that the invoked creature calls his own kind and asks him to let her deal with it. It opens the way for them to advance. Lutessa sends his pet to fight them. Iris will definitely not submit to anyone. It strikes several devastating blows to the lizard. The little monsters break apart. Suddenly, behind Volt, there's a very strong explosion. A huge cloud of dust and debris flew into the air. It was the old lizard. He realizes that his companions can get into very dangerous trouble and calls for Iris, trying to find her. The girl suddenly appears from the smoke after a huge explosion, jumping high above the cloud. She smiles radiant, saying she is perfectly fine, her eyes shining with determination. Volt thinks the girl knows how to really win, sighs and asks her not to scare him like that again. The guy himself attacks because the lizards are pretty weak, and with one stroke he managed to get rid of her. The creature disappeared suddenly, leaving behind an explosion, and for a second there was silence. But quickly a new creature appeared to replace the previous one. Volt understands that if you eliminate one lizard, another appears immediately. And if you leave the giant unattended, he will definitely destroy the barrier. And in general, the girls are behaving very carefree. The giant aims at the protagonist, trying to attack him from behind, pointing his huge fist at him. The limb flies towards the boy with a whistle. Volt shows his teeth dangerously, because even if they hit him before he could finish his thinking, was heard not too far. Someone was protecting themselves with their hands because they managed to escape. Volt is now in a very dangerous situation. The boy was surprised. Didn't the child have time to escape? If Volt escapes the blow, then the child will suffer. The giant attacked, destroying absolutely everything in his path with just one blow from his fist. A very strong wind of dust and sand rose into the sky. The man in the cape covers his face with his hands, trying to protect his eyes. In front of him was Volt, who protected him from the flaming attack by making himself a shield, saying it was really hot, because it was even hotter than the flame the dragon was spitting. Lutessa and Ranzaluna looked shocked at the guy who made himself a human shield. This scene scared the hell out of them. Volt smiles with arrogance, for he has managed to stop the giant's sword with one hand. Covering his face with his hand, he laughs frantically. The boy smiles radiantly and screams how weak Surt's fire is, because it was much warmer in the Demon King's sauna. Lutessa and Ranzaluna were intrigued, because that was definitely not human strength. It was a terrible thing. Iris was simply speechless. She remained in shock, with her eyes wide open. The girl behind him turns out to be Rika. She looks at the boy like his, her great savior. He speaks very, very loudly to Giant Surt, having obtained the monster's weapon. He threatens him with an arrogant smile, saying he now belongs to Volt. The guy strikes a powerful blow with the opponent's weapon that knocks down the giant standing, and he retreats before the devastating impact. Rika sits on the ground, completely stunned, not understanding if all this is normal, her eyes filling with tears of fear. Volt looks at the girl wiping her hands, wondering what she's doing there after all. No one expected to see you there. With the giant on weak knees at the bottom, the girl tries to justify herself somehow, until the guy has a brilliant idea. Volt, with a cheeky smile, asks Rika to help him. The girl's eyes spread, without understanding anything at all, a nervous smile forming on her lips. The giant falls with a punching blow from his own sword. For a monster like that, only his gun can hit him, Iris, with wide eyes, thinks. She remembers the sword at the gun shop. She certainly thought that was amazing. The girl says, Volt easily exceeded all his expectations. Chapter 7. Volt turns to Rika, who is sitting on the floor, reminding her that she had asked for help and wants to know how long she will sit. To which the girl responds that she cannot stand and apologizes quietly. Rika falls to her knees, already apologizing out loud for having caused Volt so much trouble. He looks at the girl like she's crazy. The guys are arguing warmly that Volt wants to help Rika. She denies it, saying there's nothing to be done. It makes no sense to bother while the giant in the background gathers forces to rise. The guy thinks Rika hit his head hard while something flies next to him, trying to hit a precise blow. The girl screams loudly. She's really noisy, Volt, says the giant is angry, because the guy broke his huge sword. He grabs Rika's elbow and pulls her up as fast as possible. Lifting it in his arms, he carries it away from the powerful explosion that could easily reach the couple. It was very similar to a curtain of fire. Now Gerda had no choice but to concentrate fully on keeping the magic circle. Rika closes her eyes and he asks out loud what she has. She's really scared. Volt also wonders if she was really scared as a little child getting wet. The girl denies it, and in general it's too embarrassing for her. The girl curses herself more than a dozen times, with tears in her innocent eyes. The boy says he's not interested in that kind of thing. He just asked Rika for help more than once. With the monster finding strength to rise, Volt explains that he is a giant of fire, and that he believes that the weak point of fire is water. So he asks Riku to use black water magic. The girl is very insecure about her abilities and expresses some doubts about it. Walt supports Riku, ensuring she has talent. He definitely believes in her strength. The boy reminds her of the time the girl turned him into a flame, and Riku covers his face with his hands and apologizes out loud for the incident. Alt encourages her not to worry about destroying everything, because now they need her destructive power. And he adds that there's no need to worry about Iris and the others. They clearly don't need help now. Clearly, the girls will manage to escape. They fight bravely against lizards that attack from all sides. He makes sure that when the girl casts a spell, he will also take action. Walt promises to protect her, her eyes shining with confidence in her words. Rika's eyes light up with determination. She is now more confident in her skills and promises to try. Even in a desperate situation, she feels a wave of courage. She's not afraid anymore. She feels stronger. The lava falling, the waves of salamanders, and even the power of this giant no longer frightens her. Rika is no longer afraid of anything. Gathering all her will in one fist, she casts a powerful spell. The girl raised her voice to the full volume and called everyone to hear it. She says they'll cast a powerful spell and asks them to deal with it as best they can. Iris isn't sure you understand anything, but he's always ready to act. Walt was full of determination. He asks you not to blame him after the warning. He gives a signal to Rika, who appeals to the powers of the water gods to hear his prayers. The girl caused a huge snowstorm. A wave of snow covered almost the entire city. She needed to stop the fire giant. A huge wave of snowstorm has arisen. Loud screams of people were heard from all sides. The wave covered the roofs even from the tallest houses. Ranza Luna claims that snowstorms like this don't happen, which, no matter the angle, is the most powerful ice magic. Diamond Dust, Riki's spell, holds the giant and all around him in his cold and powerful cage. Gerda understands that this is the highest level magic, which can only be compared to her dark magic. Walt calls it a beginner level magic, while observing one of the ice statues Rika created. Even in their homeland, few people used supreme black magic. Walt saw with his own eyes what a true first-rate black wizard he is. Rika was surprised with such damage. It was too dangerous for people's lives. He looks forward to Henlika Estanadel revealing his incredible talent. The girl herself is extremely embarrassed by the scale of the damage she has caused to the giant and lizards. Walt descends with the girl in his arms, clarifying that all the salamanders and the fire giant themselves were frozen. Giant monster ice statues rise around the group. Magic was extremely powerful. Until that moment, had been watching and noticed something interesting. There is a limit of 13 salamanders that can be invoked at the same time. But it is not necessary to eliminate the 13 at once. You can immobilize them and make them incapacitate. Walt explains that everything will be just a big target. Opening his arms to the sides, he concludes that this is extra work. The girl called him. Walt turned his attention to Iris. The boy asks the girl from Rika. They can leave the rest to him, and with a confident tone of voice, you promised you'd end it. Iris holds his hand, asking him to stop, because throwing himself into a fight without thinking is too dangerous an undertaking. The girl adds that first they should find the giant's weaknesses. At the bottom, the giant is sitting silently in his ice cage. Rika intervenes in the conversation. remembering that her body is made entirely of flame, and adds that there will be no results. The guy understands the point, that they must understand the weak point. He thinks he was hoping to end this with his own fists, but it might not work. As the giant begins to emit strange sounds, the ice layer breaks under the pressure of the giant. He almost escaped the frozen captivity. The monster opened his huge mouth. Inside the jaw, an energy clot was forming, about to be fired in an instant. Walt noticed the explosions behind him. He turned abruptly and was surprised because the monsters were all released at once. A huge and powerful explosion knocked everyone to the ground. Walt feels like Hez, on the verge of losing consciousness. He experienced a very familiar and old feeling. Walt remembered the times when he was a fearsome and grand dragon, imposing upon humans, calling them too brave to face such a powerful dragon. He remembered that there was a flash at that time. He saw exactly who was behind it. That man was called the strongest man in this world. It was a truly terrifying sight. 1,000 eyes watching all at the same time, hovering menacingly over people's heads. Walt exploded in a horrible laugh. The people had acted boldly in trying to rid themselves of the dragon. The people were more furious than the devil himself. Loud and extremely rude insults flew toward the people. The world was filled with fear. The people were taken for wild mockery. Walt's body began to take on a human form. Arms, legs, and other parts of the human body. He recognized humans as truly worthy adversaries. Part of him did not want to admit defeat, but the other part understood that there was no more chance. It was definitely his defeat. He's been defeated. Valtu felt dark, cold, empty, somewhere deep in darkness, somewhere all alone. He received the end that was given him. Walt's story was ready for to end instantly. Even though he was convinced he was really weak, he still fought with his own hands. He's really strong. He doesn't know the whole picture himself. He was defeated before the final form. Your card up your sleeve. Walt understands how ironic that story is. Because the wizard used a special magic, he started wandering through another dimension. Somewhere in the void, in the endless void, to protect himself, Walt's brain cut off contact with reality. The transformation to the final form continued. He had calculated everything. He never intended to be reborn as a human. This appearance is your final form. Walt takes his hand to the area near the heart, as if he realizes he's alive and trying to say something. Sitting on a knee, he realizes that he is not reborn. He just passed to another world. Walt is contacted through his consciousness. The boy recognizes Gerda by voice. The girl is standing at the top of the bell tower. Next to her, you can see a magic circle that supports the barrier. She warns that she wants to remove the barrier due to lack of force remaining. With a serious look directed to some point ahead, he thinks of his companions, questioning their current states. Suddenly, the image in front of him draws his attention. All your companions are badly injured. Gerda reports that all need to be rescued immediately. Lutessa hugs her pet. Iris is unconscious on the floor. Ranzaluna is in shock. Ranzaluna is weakened, but firmly holds the sword on which it stands. Walt realizes everyone protected him with his back when he passed out. All three of them are seriously injured, but they protected him, risking their lives. The guy turns to Ranzal, is impressed that she really made it. Yes, his training was not enough, but he intends to fix everything. Gerda says she has enough strength to carry everyone to a safer place. The girl raises her surprised look when she hears his voice saying that there is no need. Gerda is bewildered. She discovers that he can communicate using telepathy. Walt reports that he has already collected missing pieces from his memories. and that he can now transfer his magical power to other people. The boy, against the backdrop of the bell tower where Gerda is, promises to do something, and Gerda will have to do something else. He asks Gerda to gather all his magical powers and advises her to try to maintain the bell tower barrier. The girl doesn't know what to answer. She hears the boy's words in shock. Walt shares his joy for finally being able to act freely. With a wild look, he orders the lizards to disappear. They're small prey to him, they disappear instantly, leaving behind huge waves of explosions. Gerda's eyes spread when he realized what happened to the salamanders. She didn't expect such strong pressure from the boy. Walt addresses the giant with disrespect. He doesn't know exactly what Surt is, but you think he's too arrogant for trying to destroy the capital. Right now, Walt is about to show the seriousness of Demon King Ishvalt. With a fearless step, moves as far as possible towards the giant. Taking off, he boldly advances against the giant. Still, Walt believed that he had been reborn as a human and was always limited, while the giant was trying to attack him. The boy simply stopped holding back, releasing his powers. For him, this is child's play. All your companions are lying on the ground, trying to regain consciousness. Iris is trying to get up, sitting on her knees. She seeks in herself the last strength to stand up. She realizes that, next to her, there's a boy fighting a huge giant. And in front of you is an image of a fearless fight by the main character. Iris understands it was Walt who saved your lives. The boy, with a radiant smile on his face, in turn, prepares to strike a crushing blow, screaming for the giant of fire to prepare. Walt reaches the armor of the huge monster with all its strength. Under the powerful blow, the monster retreats. For a second, he seems confused. The armor breaks rapidly with impact, and some intensely sparkling stones become visible inside. Iris perceives the intense light coming from the stone, and in noticing this, tries to distinguish what exactly it is. The girl screams that stone is definitely his weak spot. The glittering stone on the giant's chest draws all attention to itself. It wasn't hard to take it out, but guess the monster's weak spot. Yeah, Walt takes that into consideration and turns his attention to the giant, already aiming at the right place. He made the same assumption as Iris, and then hits the stone with all the strength he can. A flash of light, and Walt is thrown away from the giant's artificial heart. With the stone in his hand, the giant, now heartless, prepares to fall and accept his defeat. The eyes of all girls light up with a radiant hope. The boy finishes the sentence saying that no creature can look at him from above. After all, this would be an unprecedented rudeness for Walt. The boy smiles intensely. He won. The huge stone was instantly broken into small pieces. 3 days after Surt's attack, the city is clearing the remnants of the invasion, all striving to clean up the mess left by the giant. Hortensia says she received a report on the restoration work very quickly. She looked out the window, watching people working outside. Everyone did their best at the beginning of the operation. She thought the job would not go so well, but turned out to be the opposite. The residents, in fact, worked harder than expected. The girl is happy to have managed to solve even such a difficult issue in such an easy and quick way. Someone sneaks up behind and offers the fox at least a little work. It happened that Gerda had decided to visit her friend. Hortensia was happy with the visit, and was not at all surprised at the appearance of the witch. The girl decides to call for help. She asks the witch how her companions are after such a brutal battle with the giant, to which she received an optimistic response. Your friends will soon recover. Gerda decides only to remind her of her right to a few days' rest. Hortensia smiles sarcastically and asks about Ransel's difficult condition. The witch answers that her condition will soon return to normal. She hopes this is all thanks to the knight's heavy equipment, and that the girl will soon be able to return to normal life. Hortensia is happy with such wonderful news, and does not hide her joy. She's happy to get back to normal. Gerda reports that the first-class miraculous armor has been destroyed. But now the most important thing is that Ransel is alive. The fox was sure that there would be a blacksmith willing to repair that armor, but the witch replied that it would not be cheap. Hortensia has no response to such provocation. Gerda tells me they put Lady Iris in great danger, and she wonders if you regret it. And she herself responds that she regrets a lot, because an important person in the capital could have suffered. Gerda keeps saying that maybe this wasn't the best tactic, but maybe it was the only option in such a dangerous situation. Hortensia concludes that at least it was the best choice at the time of battle. Gertrude confirms that it is indeed a miracle that there were no victims. The situation could have been much worse, but they were very lucky. The witch does not find an answer. She expresses silent consent that is really very lucky. With a slight smile on her face, she asks not to be consoled. The fox assumes this as a personal matter and rebukes her, for she tries to be gentle. It's not every day you hear such kind words from a fox, but they're not accepted. It's rude. Hortensia is thinking, because Volt's identity has not yet been revealed, she makes assumptions about who he really is, and also about the strange appearance of the giant. But she abandons that thought, since the boy has not yet proved himself to be a terrible demon king. You can only hope he doesn't reveal himself for now. A great crowd of people gathered on a street. Could be heard. The simple villagers thanked, praised, and almost blessed Volt as a hero of the new age. In their eyes, he is the savior of the capital. Everyone is very grateful to him, and some girls want to take the boy as their husband. The boy just bows his head, sadly. He doesn't need that kind of attention. Everyone who finds him calls him a hero. But in his opinion, a hero is the enemy of the Demon King, which was very ironic to him. Someone knocked on the door. Volt raised his head and gave permission for his visitor to enter. It was Rika. The girl apologized politely and looked inside the room. Volt notes he doesn't see her around here often and asks how she is. Rika shares that she's much better. The White Witch helped her. She also had to give up her reward for medical assistance. The boy doesn't immediately understand what the prize is. Rika says that this is a reward for rising level and, moreover, she managed to skip one. She goes to the second level and moves straight to the third. She doubts herself, thinking it was not useful enough. Volt is surprised. He reminds the girl it was only thanks to her freezing magic that they managed to get out. Rika thanks you politely. The boy expresses his concerns because his level did not rise, and he takes his level card out of his pocket. He thinks different levels must have different boundaries. Even if he managed to defeat the giant, his level didn't go up a bit. He looks at his letter, trying to see something new in it. Volt doesn't feel at all satisfied. Is disappointed in his situation. The boy decides to put that thought aside and turns to the girl with a question. How's it going out there now? He assumes people are still agitated. Rika says that compared to the first day, it's actually calmer now. She also adds that the enthusiasm of the residents does not diminish, and that is why she needs to put on a hood when she comes out and puts on a hood. Volt laughs a lot, touched by the fact that Rika is now also a local celebrity. The girl says it used to be an elf that undermined her mates, but now it's called a cold elf. Volt covers his stone with his hand, trying not to laugh. Volt still understands that without Rika's ice magic, they definitely couldn't handle the situation. Rika sadly lowers her head, as her new title looks more like the name of some dish in a restaurant. Volt plays with this, saying that now if Rika makes any mistake, she can be called Wet Elf. The girl is very unhappy with this idea. She asks not to tell anyone about this indecent thought, because that would embarrass her. Volt promises he definitely won't tell anyone, and then asks why the girl came to him. Rika blushes and is very embarrassed. She feels uncomfortable talking about these things. Volt questions what it's about. She quickly falls to her knees, apologizing aloud, almost hitting her head on the floor. Volt leaned on his cheek and wondered why the girl was apologizing to him again. Rika reveals that she received orders from Chief Berdelin to secretly spy on Volt. After the mushroom collecting mission, the girl is instructed to write reports to Rika. Volt was interested in these details. He says there was no way to resist this cunning fox. She admits that she was seduced by a very big reward, as she almost always ended up with an empty wallet in her hands. Volt always knew she had a hard life, because Rika was almost always broke in her pocket and hungry. The girl lifts her head, surprised, and asks if he's really not mad at her. She hoped to see anger in the boy's eyes, or at least repulsed, but saw none of it, receiving as an answer a contained laugh. Volt admits he's used to being followed, but the girl still feels guilty for lying to him for so long. Then quickly refused the position. Volt says that if she'd been quiet, she could have been paid a great deal for the work done. News. The girl is shocked, and Volt expresses gratitude for finally confessing. It was a really brave act for a girl like her. Rika squeezes the coat bar, feeling an intense shame inside. With a loud scream and tears in her eyes, she runs towards Volt, screaming that she will not yet calm down. The boy tries to explain that he is ready to forgive all her mistakes, but is interrupted. Rika asks for any punishment, and preferably the most severe, for such a serious offense. She almost begs for punishment for herself. The boy starts screaming because he doesn't really understand what she wants from him. He doesn't want to punish her under any circumstances. He doesn't need it. Elsie, passing through the hall, wants to enter Volt's room and beats politely. Upon seeing the Rika scene kneeling before the boy, clinging to his clothes, the three are speechless. Elsie, with a totally unfriendly aura, asks him what he's doing with Rika over there. Volt tries to protect the girl by screaming that that is not what she might be thinking. Alice cheats, apologizes, and admits that in fact she misunderstood. Rika, crying loudly, asks for forgiveness. Volt asks what Elsie is doing there, and the girl answers that she is there because of the reward for the defeated giant. Volt expresses dissatisfaction with the title of hero. Alice smiled radiantly, thinking that all adventurers are like that, and that everyone should learn modesty from Volt himself. But the boy understood nothing. He turned away unnecessary thoughts and asked what reward they would receive. Alice says the board has decided to take care of their future, and he adds that without work, they won't be able to pay for the lodging. And it's not polite to offer such a cheap room. Volt thought they were getting into a machifo. The boy found this offer very tempting and asked which tavern they should be sent to. Alice politely, with a smile on her face, replied that it would be a 3-star tavern. Rika was surprised by such an assessment. Volt did not understand very well the meaning of this classification, so the girl explained that this was the highest grade for any very rich tavern. Rika explains with nostalgia that among the various taverns, customer service, cooking, various equipment, everything reaches the highest quality with a rating of 3 star. The girl tells how she read a lot of guides with information about taverns, as she always dreamed of going there, and how she liked to enjoy the atmosphere of the photo. This beautiful flow of thoughts is interrupted by Alice. The girl says there are 2 free seats in the tavern and invites Rika to move. Alice begins to detail the amenities of the tavern, but Rika interrupts her monologue. She doesn't think she can afford a place like this to live. But Alice claims there's nothing wrong with that. The girl announces she can afford 2 heroes' lodgings for 3 months in advance. That's the least they can offer for saving the capital. Rika thinks 3 stars are too much for them, but Valt expresses the opposite idea on the contrary, advising them to seize the moment as long as they can. The boy ensures that it is not worth worrying about because they'll have plenty of time to make money and keep living in the tavern. He promises to help Rika develop her skills, which deeply touches the girl, and this appeal to her makes her very happy, despite her ability to destroy everything around her. Alice giggles and says this is a new grouper. It was a very sweet event. The girl advises not to postpone this subject, delivers a map of the area where the tavern is located, and strongly recommends they visit her. There's a lot of people walking down the street next to the tavern. Some are entering, others are admiring the beautiful view of the tavern outside. Some are just walking. The couple arrived at the tavern site. Valt imagined the royal quarters and was a little disappointed by what he saw. The tavern sign said, Demon King's Castle. Valt was shocked by that name. He tries to remember where he's seen that name before. A strange feeling wouldn't leave him. Someone greets the boy with the phrase they haven't seen each other in a long time. Valt recognized Chiron. The girl was pleasantly surprised that he remembered her name. She greeted the guests with a gentle smile. The girl shared that she was waiting for the heroes of the capital. She called the boy a very promising adventurer. Chiron smiled and warned that now he would call Valt a hero. He was clearly very unhappy with such a nickname. The girl suggested King of Heroes, but that infuriates the boy even more. She sees Rika at her side and tries hard to remember her. The girl's appearance could really stand out in the crowd. Chiron bets it's Henrik's cold elf. Rika introduces herself with her full name and says she's very pleased to meet you. The girl asks you to simply call her Rika, but Chiron continues to call her the cold elf Henrik. The girl is clearly embarrassed with so much respect directed to her. The girl expresses her dissatisfaction, but for Chiron, the official title sounds quite tasty. Rika is now sure that her title sounds like restaurant food, and Chiron invites the boys in. The girl promises to take them to the castle of the Demon King, and opens the doors of the tavern for them. Both are enchanted by the extremely rich atmosphere of the tavern. Elegant chandeliers, high ceilings, wide and long staircases all seemed very large and luxurious. Valt liked the smell of the tavern. Chiron explains that during the day, the lobby functions as a restaurant, and at night as a beer lounge, so guests can eat and drink at any time. The girl takes the boys to the 2nd floor, shows them where their room is. Guests can stay here now. As soon as they enter, they are involved in the luxurious atmosphere of a rich room. Expensive furniture, and space is nothing small. Valt speaks very positively about the new room, having moved his bed into the office when he was the Demon King. He's really impressed with the size of the room and is satisfied with his new home. And Rika is taken to see the room. There are 2 huge single beds in the room, and the boys are told that instead of 2 bedrooms, 1 is free. That makes Rika extremely uncomfortable. Chiron says it was probably a guild mistake, and you can see on her face that she's really sorry. Valt says a room like this would suit him perfectly. Nothing bothers him. The boy sits in bed, satisfied, and repeats that they will live there, because he really liked the room. Unlike Rika, who is ashamed, She covers her red cheeks with embarrassment. Rika is very confused by the idea of living with Walt. She's never lived with a boy before. Chiron says you can shower on the first floor whenever you want. Also, so that the couple could enjoy the hot springs, Walt was very interested. Chiron adds that it is possible to contact reception in case of doubts. Walt understood and accepted the information, and shamed Rika didn't know how to live with the boy. She's immersed in your terrible thoughts. What if Walt, the boy, takes her out of his thoughts? The girl gets scared, as she was suddenly distracted from her thoughts. Walt repeats that they will live together, and hopes Rika's heart will be ready. The girl was even more embarrassed. The boy adds that they are definitely ready for a man and a woman to live together under the same roof. He holds his hand tight. He adds that she must be prepared for the fact that in the future, Rika will have to give birth to a child. The girl gets red like a tomato and screams loudly that this paper is too much for her. Walt didn't understand what just happened. The girl explained that she wasn't ready for such a role yet. The boy agreed and asked Riku to listen carefully. He designates one bed as his own and delivers the other to Rika. The girl stays in a silent bastard. He comments if she wants to know what happens if she crosses the border. The boy says, "Of course there will be a war." The girl is worried. A war? The boy hastily reassures her, saying he does not intend to defend himself from his partner. Rika screams back that she never intended to enter his territory. Not at all. She really doesn't need that. Walt is happy and says that her words have calmed him down. The boy offers to sign a non-aggression pact, which surprises Riku a lot, but he rushes to reassure her that the situation is not so serious and that a verbal promise will suffice. Walt asks the girl for a promise. She agrees quickly. The boy is contented. He's really happy to hear it. Now this is his territory. Walt asks Rika if she wants to go to the famous hot springs, adding that she should go and that they can certainly perform some missions after that. The girl agrees with hesitation. The boy is satisfied with her answer and runs quickly out of the room. The girl's cheeks turned red. She doesn't understand what's happening to her. She felt completely out of her mind, standing in her room with her cheeks too red. But at the same time, she calmed down while bathing in the hot spring. Meanwhile, on the other side, Walt was looking for the hot springs he needed. The boy claimed that there really was a rich variety there. He didn't want to delay while there were almost no people. But he also didn't want to get lost. Having chosen the first source for his test, he was illuminated by an intense brightness of light. Walt looked at the fountain that had chosen a beautiful, warm, and cozy place, with a huge cloud of light foam around. In the middle of all that white pile, the boy found Kulila, Lutesa's pet. Walt was surprised and asked the animal if he was with the girl, since usually the two are always together. Upon hearing a familiar voice calling Ku, the boy turned with the loud cry. Walt turned to Lutesa, who came running from that foam cloud. He was happy to see you there. The girl, without paying attention to the boy, advanced threateningly against her pet. Walt was surprised. She wanted to attack him and crush him, but as it turned out, they were just relaxing in the hot springs in their own way. The boy asked, surprised, what Lutesa was doing. She replied that she was trying to wash Ku, because she always ran away from bathing attempts. Walt was even more surprised by the sudden appearance of the girl and asked if she had used transitional magic. Luteza responded positively to his question and explained that the sacred beast has a miraculous ability by nature. The guy just wants to know how long she's gonna be like this, but it's still a public place, and he'd like to relax. The girl jokes that she can hide in the foam and gets a slap on the head. Walt asks the girl to return quickly to the bath. He wanted a quiet rest. An idea that only she knows comes to mind, and she asks if Walt will wash up now. As he goes, the girl says she's gonna give him some advice. The guy doesn't understand what she's talking about. The girl talks about the secret source, Hana no Yu, which only a few chosen know. Walt wonders why there's only one way in. The girl suggests it was made for collective baths. Valtu doesn't like the idea of swimming together. He would rather relax alone. Lutessa, again on the situation of thermal waters, only sits with their heads and says they will also go there. The boy thinks of the girl and her mascot. Lutessa denies his thought and says he will go with the boy. She claims that the Night Order reserved this source and that he should not be shy. Walt wonders how someone can't feel shy here. The boy is concerned that Iris and the others will not let him go. Lutessa just reassures the boy. The girl sees in this situation a new perspective for mockery. Walt understands why he was called there. He warns that he simply came to enjoy the thermal waters and clarifies whether Lutessa takes responsibility for everything. The girl only dreams of taking a good bath. The boy tries to convince himself that everything will be alright. The guy really liked the hot springs. He smelled it. Walt thought it was definitely the smell of some girl. Someone's voice says they want to take advantage of the sources. The guy screams because he doesn't know who he is. It was the Night Order that had reserved the sources. Walt panics. Didn't Lutessa explain the situation to them? The knights quickly demanded an answer. Walt shouted back his name, which was he who was in the hot springs. Ranzaluna advanced against him with a cry and a powerful blow, collecting water from the springs behind her. Walt skillfully deviated from the girl's anger. It was discovered that Lutessa had specifically called the guy there. She thought it was a fun activity, while he was trying to defend himself from the coups. The girls were arguing about his extremely embarrassing situation. Walt sits calmly and is glad to have survived such an attack. Lutessa approached from behind and offered to help wash the boy. The girl joked that Walt didn't like to wash her body, just like her pet. The boy did not like to be compared to an animal, but he admitted that he was not very good at washing, because when he was part of the royal family, the servants washed him. The girl became very thoughtful. Lutessa offered to help wash it. Your thoughts were definitely not kind. A villainous plan was clearly forming in his mind. The girl offered a reward for saving the city. Walt tried to refuse, but she proved more cunning. According to her, elves are a very conscientious race, so it wouldn't be hard for her to thank him. The boy is still having doubts, but Lutessa is more persistent. She makes sure there's no need for him. There's no reason to doubt it, so she again offers to help wash Walt's body. The girl suggests he closes his eyes if he's so embarrassed. Lutessa is already wanting to start washing the boy, while Walt prays that she does not bite her ears. For a while, Walt sits quietly and calmly. While the boy is sitting in the thermal waters, he realizes that something is wrong. He calls Lutessa. Walt wonders if the girl was really that hairy. Lutessa tries not to laugh. The girl covers her mouth. She covers her mouth with her hand not to laugh. The boy decided to describe his feelings as if a mop was touching him. Lutessa is about to laugh loudly. The girl's pet jumps out of a huge pile of foam. Ku ended up being very friendly and extended his arms to the boy in search of a hug. Lutessa explodes in laughter, and the boy feels relieved and disappointed at the same time. Ranzaluna turns to Walt to get his attention. She warns you not to dare spy on Iris, who's just enjoying the hot springs. Walt thinks that's a good idea, because if he wanted to, the girl hears Walt's naughty behavior as something too petty. The girl closes her jaw with rage against the boy. But the boy compares the girl's physique to the proportions required for a knight, and says that such a body does not look like a fighter. Ranzaluna gets very embarrassed and angry at the same time. The girl throws water at him, Lutizi giggles, and Iris tries to calm them both down. The girl decides to find out if Valt had thought of a name for the group. The boy thinks about it and gives a positive answer. He wanted to call the group a world conquest. The three girls agreed that that name definitely wasn't for them. It sounded very ridiculous. Valt is disappointed because the ideas of the great genius have never been accepted by society. He's almost disappointed in this cruel world. But he decided to try his luck and figure out Iris' opinion. Maybe she approved your idea. The girl thinks it's dangerous to let Valt think alone. The boy is in shock. Lutessa decides that everyone should think together about the name of the group. It's easier when everyone thinks together. Rika is surprised at the idea of creating a name for the group. At another time, while walking with Rika, comments on the idea of name. Says he talked to some adventurers about it in the hot springs. He received the advice to appoint as the Ishuto group. The boy wants to know what Rika thinks of that name. The girl shares that she likes that name, and Valt decides to keep it. Although the boy says the magic part is missing, that name is simply common and boring. Valt shares that Iris and the others did not like the name very much, but he liked the idea of Aslis dark hegemony. Suddenly, the girl screams. Rika asks for help to get up. Valt doesn't understand what's going on. The girl screams loudly that someone grabbed her leg. She starts imagining the most terrible scenarios in her mind. Valt asks her to calm down and promises to think of something. The boy is completely certain that this cannot be a ghost. And if you asked who it was, there was an unknown girl lying on the cold ground. She looked extremely tired. In the previous chapter, the hero saw the girl lying on the ground. She was very weak and seemed as if she had fought with someone for a very long time. The guys look at the girl. Turns out she's the one who grabbed Rika by the leg. Valt says she looks like a child. The girl wakes up in an instant and screams in panic that she is not a child, but a very famous adventurer. The boy tries to find out if everything's okay with her. Rika shares that if she's hurt, she should see a doctor, and she wonders if she'll make it to the capital. Valt says in this state, she definitely won't reach the capital. She refuses help, but the boy tries to help her. The girl holds the stomach. She bends almost completely due to pain in the abdomen. Valt seems to understand exactly what the problem is. Turns out she was very hungry. Maybe he hadn't eaten for several days in a row. Chapter 8. The group reached the branch of the capital of Guild of Adventurers until the cafeteria. The new girl happy lunch. She's eating a very tasty meal. There's a huge pile of empty plates next to her. The girl eats huge portions with joy. Rika tells the girl not to be ashamed and eat all she wants and get to eat. Valt was interested in whether the girl had money. He needed to understand who would buy the girl lunch. Because the appetite in such a small body is too big. Not everyone could afford a bill like that. She admits her pocket is empty. The boy understands that it will be he who will pay for dinner. All he can do is sigh and accept the situation. The girl introduced herself. His name is Mirabuka Stelvio. Mirabuka shares that she was born in Port and is 14 years old. Valt thought about it and decided to call her Mirabu, which left the girl displeased, because that nickname of the past could again catch. The guy asks how she got in those bushes. She couldn't have just gotten lost. Mirabuka is very ashamed to tell this story. It's clear from the girl's face that the story is not the best. She said she was on a delivery mission, and on the way she found a monster. As you reported, she failed the mission. The guy asked what happened and suggested that a monster stole it. Mirabuka admitted she ate the delivery. She was ashamed to admit it, but she had to confess. Because she couldn't hide it, the girl shared that while fleeing the monster, she climbed a tree because of hunger. She realized she couldn't give herself up on an empty stomach, and the food was almost over. Then she remembered her basket, which contained merchandise. They were fruits of the highest quality. She didn't find another way out. Volt was displeased with the girl's boldness. Someone calls the girl on the pretext of seeing her for the first time in weeks. It was Elsie who came running. She was glad Mira was okay. I was worried about the girl's condition. She thanks Volt for protecting her. The boy is surprised. Elsie shares that Mira accepted a beginner-level mission and shouted without leaving a trace. The boy is surprised. She's a master in her art, so she shouldn't perform such simple tasks. Rika and Mira have a nice conversation. Elsie says Velta should be rewarded and promises to pay her bill. The boy relaxes, because he won't have to pay. Mira shares that she's been adventurous for 2 years. Rika is delighted because she should have a higher status. The girl wonders why, having so much experience, Mira still remains a craftswoman. The girl didn't like anyone focusing on it. She considered that an insult. She doesn't like Rika to scold her, because that's too rude. Craftsmen are very disrespectful. Mira asks if Rika thinks being a craftsman is too small a step on the way to becoming a magician. She asks what her profession is, and Rika answers that she is a black magician. Mira continues, questioning if when she received the title of Black Maga, she was also not a craftswoman. Deep breath. She is about to say everything to his face. Volt quickly pushes food into the girl's mouth and tells her to calm down. She quickly swallowed the food. He calmed down and smiled radiantly at the delicious food. His mood changed very quickly to something more positive. Volt asks if the girl directed someone's anger to herself. She shares that, for artisans, her profession is very important. They're very proud of their work. They helped many adventurers. Mira concludes that craftsmen are very disrespectful. Volt's not sure, but you agree with her thinking. Volt, having tea, thinks that on the day of entering the training school of adventurers, no matter what profession you choose, knight or adventurer apprentice for him, they are all boring professions. For him, those words are not even worth looking for in an isekai encyclopedia. Volt was surprised to have just shown disrespect to artisans. Mira knocks on the table, expressed out loud the idea that she really wanted to gain respect for her profession. She dreams of becoming the strongest craftswoman in the world one day. And she starts talking about her family tree, but as she was talking too loud, an employee approached and asked her not to bother the other clients up. The girl was furious. She thought they were looking at her like it was garbage, but Volt calmed her down, saying she was really to blame. The boy says Mira herself is dishonoring the honest name of the artisans, and that she should really think about it. The girl tries to defend herself by saying that it was Volt who made her angry, so the boy simply laughed and joked that she was probably angry with herself. Mira screams that, on the contrary, is angry with him, and screams that, with that kind of personality, he has no chance with the girls. Volt says he doesn't care at all about it, and he doesn't want to be part of the craftsmen. But Mira, who is part of the craftsmen, is equally furious about it, and calls Mira not so much a girl, but a small naughty child. Elsie tries to calm Mira, because at this rate, the waitress will soon come again in response to loud screams. Mira sits down and calms down, while Elsie turns her attention to Volt and apologizes for not helping with the change, to which the boy replies that they did it alone. Mira is shocked by the phrase about change. Elsie says that Volt became a hero because he saved the capital of a huge giant, and that this reward was used to upgrade the activity business. Mira rises threateningly from the table. She doesn't believe a man like Vault could save the city. The boy is offended by such accusation against him. The girl asks a question about the boy's good finances. Vault is surprised by such a question. Mira clarifies that on their team, one person attacks physically and the other with magic. Mira concludes that the craftsman will be an excellent balance regulator in their team. She really wants to be with someone on the team. Mira suggests that everyone praises white magicians who can heal people, but we should not leave craftsmen in the background. They can be very useful. The girl talks about all the advantages of the craftsmen on the team. Rika nods with approval. Having almost accepted the girl on his team, Vault understands how easy it is to deceive her. All you had to do was pressure your pity, Mira says. It'll be very useful. Vault abruptly interrupts his monologue. The guy says they definitely don't need a third person on the team, and that she should go bother someone else. Aim closes the trembling fists. The girl screams loudly of great resentment. Vault thought his stomach was hurting again. Mira shares that she never managed to fit into any group. She's always been alone. She says, because of her profession, she couldn't get a normal mission. If this continues, she will soon lose her title as an adventurer. Mira says now you'll have to leave the capital and go back to your little town. She told me about her dreams. How she tried to be accepted into the capital. He doesn't have much empathy. Rika suddenly rises from the table. The boy is in shock. The girl says with a trembling voice that the capital really is cruel to the new adventurers. She says she understands Mira perfectly, because if she hadn't met Vault, she probably would have left the capital a long time ago. The boy is surprised to see Rika trying to protect Mira. The girl declares that Mira is definitely not a stranger and asks Vault to accept her into the group and strive to make friends with her. Vault is surprised to hear that from Rika. The boy remembers that Rika's disease of destroying everything has not yet been cured, and that Mira can become the trigger for its manifestation at any time. The girl just promises to try with all her strength. Vault remains hesitant, but it allows Mira to remain purely out of respect for Rika's feelings. The two girls are very happy and thank Vault. Mira hugs Riku, saying he can now have fun with someone on the team, and thanks her. As the girls hug each other, Mira turns his eyes on Vault. She gives him a strange smile, and the boy begins to doubt his decision to leave her. Vault orders Riku to take Mira to wash, because if she remains dirty, they may have problems. The girl runs to talk to Shiran, and looking at Elsie, he says that's how things work with them. The hero commented that although he did not really want to understand the girl, he remembered that Riku rarely asked her for something with such insistence, so he would feel guilty if he refused. Seeing Elsie standing there, thinking, he asked if she had a problem with Mira. She replied that she had no problem with her, and explained that she was thinking about the recent incident with the man who refused to take responsibility for Murabuku. The young man did not understand her. The girl explained that Mirabuki's guardian wanted her to change her choice of profession as a craftsman to another. Elsie knew that her friend always had communication problems, and that was proven by her relationship with the person responsible for her. Elsie added that the keeper of stubborn Mirabuki had already changed twice. However, it was clear to children that she was not the reason for this misunderstanding and different thinking between the responsible and the protected. The young man said it always happens in life. You go out into the world, and you cannot avoid conflicts. There is no justice or evil in the world, because there are as many opinions as there are living people. The girl observed that he could sometimes seem very adult, relaxing, Vault almost revealed that he has already ruled an entire state, but held back in time. He comments that Mirabeau would lose her right as an adventurer, to which the young woman confirms this possibility. But she believes she'll be Mirabeau's guardian from now on. Our guy thanks her. He suggests Elsie's companies, saying she seems to be surrounded by troublesome people. Elsie laughs low, while our guy questions that attitude. She expresses her willingness to support others as much as she can. Elsie explained that it was the boy she thought was problematic. Volt was outraged and asked why she thought so. The girl ignored the question and said that's why she wanted to help him. The boy had no choice but to thank you. They shook hands. Seizing the moment, Elsie shook his hand hard and presented compensation for lost goods. Sometime later, in one of the living rooms of the tavern of the castle of the Demon King, ashamed Mirabeau asked the hero if she and Rika would sleep together. The young man quietly explained that he also thought so, but there was a small mistake. He asked if it was so important, to which the girl could not organize her thoughts. She murmured that she was afraid of being an obstacle to their loving relationship and was worried that everything would be okay. At that time, Rika exclaimed that her friend had misunderstood everything. She states that she and Volt had a completely non-romantic relationship, however. Mirabeau seemed not to be listening. She asked her friend what she thought a girl and a boy were doing alone in a room. The hero explained that, having formed a team with Rika, they ended up living in the same room, which they could not change. However, the young man agreed that it could be like a family. The girl also agreed to it. She said she and Rika would sleep together. The young man added that Mirabeau should not be shy and feel at home. Volt went straight to the point. He said that the next day they would continue the abandoned mission, where for the first time the three would work together. The young man added that Rika could practice her magic. At the same time, it would be a good opportunity to test Mirabeau's fighting style. He asked if the partners would mind starting the day shopping for Mirabeau's things. The girl exclaimed that she knew a great store for it. Although the site was inconvenient, prices and selection were of first quality. The next day, the boys went to the Silver Pig, second-hand store Mirabeau had mentioned. Volt read on the board that the store offers customers low prices and will satisfy any customer's wish. Seeing a lot of people in the store, Rika realized that the establishment was quite excited. An employee went out to greet them as if they were regular customers, but then recognized Mira. The girl also greeted Misette. An old acquaintance embraced Mirabeau. She began to wonder how her cuteness had lived all the time they didn't see each other. Mirabeau, not happy, told the boys they'd go to another store. However, the owner of the store noted that her friend would not find such attractive prices anywhere else. The girl reminded Mirabeau that she had recently used the Rent Adventurer service and asked if she thought friendship could be bought with money. Adventurer denied everything. Mirabeau introduced Volt as his older brother, who had already managed to make noise and become a popular person in the city. Misette's eyes immediately lit up. She shouted that there was a celebrity in her shop, Volt. Without understanding such enthusiasm and listening to the pun, noted that this was not the name of any dish of the day. However, the girl didn't hear him. She shook her hand and began to rock it hard, without believing that such a person could appear at the door of her shop. Although he initially thought Volt was a tenant and not an adventurer. Misette noted that being adventurous is a very dangerous profession, and asked if Mirabeau would like to work for her. She immediately refused. Her friend was not offended by her refusal. She winked and said she would always love Mira, who was fighting for her dream. The store owner told the visitors to come in and look around. When they were alone, Mira confessed to Rika that, although he liked the store, was irritated by the way he spoke of Miseta. His partner just laughed and said they looked like good friends. Mirabu looked away and said they were not that close. She only talked to the owner when she came to the store to buy things. However, the boys didn't think so. They saw that Miseta treated her partner as a friend, whom she loved very much. Mira was embarrassed and walked towards the store, calling the team to go faster. The young man sighed, telling Rika to get the necessary things. As he passed, Volt asked the girl if she had ever gone to Sabium Swamp, however. This was the first time Rika visited the Sabium Swamp. She said she'd heard of the place. She opened the paper to read the task and see what materials needed to be taken to complete the mission. They needed to capture 10 pearl lizards. Rika explained that pearls fall from monsters called reptilians. They lived just in the territory of the Sabium Swamp. These creatures are very prolific and poisonous, because of which the Sabium Swamp was contaminated. The boy asked what percentage of pearls were left by lizards. The girl said it was 5% after calculating. Volt said that out of 20 pieces they would get at least 1 pearl. After a little thought, he said they'd need to kill about 200 lizards in total. Rika got a little nervous. It was a huge number. She showed her partner the mission information and, in panic, said it had to be completed by 6 p.m. Volt said, thoughtful, that, including the return trip, the task would take about 3 hours. The young man was a little annoyed that they had a time limit. If you can collect more than 10 pearls, you will receive a greater reward. In the end, due to the short time available, but the prospect of success in the execution, Volt decided to accept this mission. The hero considered this task easy enough. It was perfect to test the strength of the group, see how the girls would work together, and perform a training. After a while, the boys were already walking through the famous Savoy Swamp. "Rika, Pauline," said the place. Looks scary. Volt thought the place didn't look like a tourist attraction also. The soil was too soft to walk. The hero tested the bridge for resistance. Having made sure that she could bear his weight, he called the girls to follow him. It was better for boys to walk across a dry surface than through the mud. Mirabu jumped the bridge easily, while his partner had much more difficulty doing so. Rika observed that the girl was much stronger than her. Mira laughed with arrogance and said he had the ability, untiring walker, which gave him an increase in the value of his strength. Rika speculated that it was because of this skill that she could carry much more with her and still move easily. Mirabu was happy that her partner finally understood the virtues of being a craftswoman and asked her to continue in the same spirit. Rika would like to see her friend like this. Mentally, she wanted to be equally focused on her goals and confident. While the girls were talking behind him, Volt observed around. He didn't see anything suspicious. The young man called for Rika. The girl approached him immediately. The hero asked her to listen carefully. He said that in his homeland, it was taught that magic based on the 4 elements strongly depends on the environment. Rika said, thoughtful, that in their case, it was very important to choose the right terrain to match the magical element chosen. She then warned that due to her inexperience, she could be wrong. However, Volt did not think so. He asked what effect magic would have if they were in a swamp. The girl said fire magic would be much weaker than water magic. Suddenly, Riku had an idea. She was so impressed that ended up including unintentionally the water magic she wanted to experience, but the hero said it would be better to attack with fire. The girl didn't see that coming. He explained that if the power of fire magic were less, then Rika's probability would be lower by mistake. It was the perfect way to solve the problem. Besides, she would learn to control magical power, Volt said. headed be a great live bait. He warned that when he gave the signal, she could throw a fireball. Meanwhile, Mirabu would be engaged in support. The girl didn't like it very much. She asked if her partner knew the craftsman could replace the white wizard. The young man replied that this was not the issue now. While the team was talking, huge lizards appeared in the swamp. Before Volt could tell the squad to prepare for the attack, Mirabu ran ahead. She rushed forward. The young man screamed at the girl not to act impulsively. Mirabu cried out, asking for a chance to show off his entire profession. She pulled a homemade bomb against the monsters and showed it. Mirabu used his deadly pitching skill and dropped the bomb directly on the monsters. It exploded, causing swamp water to rise. The girl was pleased with herself. She said that even a craftsman could play the role of attacker perfectly. The explosion made the boy's hair shiver. Volt murmured that it was a great way to get blown up. Chapter 10. The young man sighed and admitted he understood. The boy understood how capable craftsmen could be, but he wondered why, in this case, his partner had not advanced beyond the first level in the last 2 years. The girl was initially embarrassed to talk about it, but then he explained that until recently, he didn't have enough money to live, that she couldn't even make a bomb. The boy answered that it was her face. The girl reported happy that her ability was at best, so I could throw anything. She said that objects could also be considered weapons, and that if Volt wanted to, the craftsman could give him a legendary class weapon. The kid liked it. But the boy still said that Mirabu should hold back a little bit, because that would not help Rika's training. The girls apologized to each other at the same time for inconvenience. The boys were attracted by sound and saw lizards emerging from the shadows of the high grasses of the swamp. The bomb explosion led them to the group. While Volt couldn't decide whether to be happy about it, he told the group to follow suit. The boy told Rika to wait for a sign to cast magic. Mirabu should use items depending on the situation. Volt added that she could launch bombs if necessary. The girl laughed and replied that she would throw everything she had at the monsters. Volt was happy to finally look like a real group. He ran forward, asking first if everyone was ready for battle. The girls ran after the hero. Mirabu was surprised at his partner's speed and did not understand why he ran ahead. The boy, in turn, played the bait. He attracted the monsters to himself and jumped into a tree. Volt signaled Rika to act. By hearing that, the girl immediately threw a fireball that destroyed everything in her way. She hit the target in full. Mirabu was speechless in the face of such a powerful attack by his partner. Volt noted that Rika's strength had increased since the Aina forest. He added that even weakened by the properties of the field, energy seemed stronger than before. Rika thanked you for the compliment. She said she felt better after the fruit Einzel. While Volt and Rika were talking, Mirabu was silent, in shock. She knew Volt was quite famous, but didn't think her physical abilities were far beyond superhuman. Besides, Mira hadn't understood since when Rika, with her magic in development, was so strong, and if the properties of the field influenced. At first, Mirabu found it strange that Rika formed a group with someone. Eventually, the girl came to the conclusion that those were not the ordinary adventures she was used to seeing every day. Seeing talented and confident people among her partners, the girl gave herself the confidence to communicate that she would definitely become stronger. Mira told herself she needed to believe she could do it. She noticed Rika's friendly fire was no longer so harmless. Then I would have to be careful or end up being hit. The girl decided that, in this case, I would act as a member of the group and perfectly fulfill her role as a healer. She realized that Volt was neither sweating nor tired, even running non-stop. Mirabu pulled a jar of potion out of his pocket. She believed that her partner should be a little tired, so would help him with his skills. The girl said it was her turn to show her what she was capable of. She used potion throw and threw the bottle towards the boy. But he misdirected skillfully. The vial hit the injured lizard directly, healing it. The girl became displeased and asked why Volt had deviated. He said it was dangerous. Sweating from excitement, Mirabu explained that it was his potion-throwing skill. She added that it was a high-level technique that would hit a person in the skull, and she would begin to heal from head to toe. Volt doubted the safety of the method and asked if his partner had ever wondered why artisans were so unpopular. While speaking, a revived lizard attacked him from behind, but the young man knocked him out with a single blow. Mirabu could not answer in any way, because his partner gave him a fairly fair argument. The boy added that his body was covered with a magical coating, and so magical and physical attacks did not work against him. The girl asked if it didn't make him invincible. The young man replied that it was not so, for at the Battle of Searcher, he still lost consciousness for a second. However, thanks to that, his memories returned to him. Mirabu didn't understand what he was talking about. Volt said that healing and support spells didn't work on him, so he needed to drink a potion to have an effect. He assured her he wasn't tired at all. The girl sighed and said the boy discouraged her. The hero found the skill interesting, although it was difficult to understand. Rika laughed embarrassedly and told Mira that carrying a bottle on his head was painful to imagine. The craftswoman wanted to somehow defend herself, but failed. She said that method was much faster than opening the bottle and drinking. Mirabu said it was very practical at critical times. Volt asked how this differed in its medicinal effects. The girl hesitated. She looked away and said that if a person drank the potion, the cure would work better. After that, Volt did want to continue the conversation. He asked Mirabu to refrain from throwing bottles to heal. However, the girl wanted to object, saying that this was her identity as a craftsman. The young man smiled and said that he had not thought that she, as a professional, was fragile, that she would suffer with only one condition. Mirabu said, hesitant, that's not what she had in mind. She claimed that playing potions was a valuable way to relieve stress for her. She explained that the sound of the potion breaking in her head and the splatter of the potion calmed her down. The girl told how, when she was in adventurer's school, she managed to make her first pitch, which almost made her faint of excitement. Mirabu grabbed Volt and, with tears in his eyes, began asking to be allowed to throw bottles. The guy was still categorically against it. He added that he had not asked anything about fetishes. In the end, the hero yielded and gave her permission to throw bottles only in critical situations. The girl was very happy. After 2 hours, the guys finished the mission. At the end of the task, Volt suggested that lizards were not very intelligent, but after killing so many of them, the monsters lost their will to fight. He suggested collecting items that fell from 300 lizards. If they were lucky, they'd collect enough to complete the mission completely. Mirabu, inspired, ran ahead, saying that collecting items was also a craftsman's specialty. Volt wanted to move on with the idea of collecting items falling from 300 lizards, but Rika interrupted him. She said the guy should rest, because all this time he was running for her training. The girl assured me she would help Mirabu. The young man asked how long they still had to finish. Rika looked at his watch. She said it would take about 2 hours to get to the capital, so even if they needed some time to collect, the guys would still have time. Volt said with so much time, you could take it easy, but they couldn't be lazy either. He thought if necessary he would run, even though I don't like running for so long. Rika found it right to borrow a clock from the guild, since time was essential to them by completing a limited-term mission. Vault agreed with her. He understood how valuable clocks were in that world. The girl called the team to take over the task. The young man said would leave the collection to them. He decided to take a little break while the girls collected the items. Some time has passed. Vault complained that Rika and Mirabu should have returned by now. The young man entered the forest, calling for his partner. When suddenly he heard someone. He saw a monster with a long body attacking his partners, who shouted for help. The monster looked like a reptile, but it was much bigger. It was clear that only high-ranking adventurers could face him. Vault didn't understand why the guild didn't know about the monster. He shouted for the girls to keep running. The hero jumped on the monster, who opened his mouth to grab the man. He thought the battle would end, however. The monster began to release a thick mist of his body. He put his hand on his face, realizing it was poisonous. Vault grabbed the girls and ordered to hold their breath. He began to run as far away as possible from the place where the unknown substance was spreading. When they were far enough away, the hero put his companions on the ground. Mirabu, scared, said it surprised her. She didn't know what kind of fog was that, which reminded her of a stink bomb from a weasel. The girls admitted they had inhaled the monster's vapors. The young man was worried and spoke, asking if they were all right. Mirabu smiled and suggested that it was just a bluff from the stupid reptile. Vault shook his head. He couldn't believe that whoever ran so desperately said that. That's when he realized Mirabu didn't have his purse. The girl said she threw it away to buy more time for them to escape. The young man just sighed. Rika asked the hero not to be mad at his partner, because thanks to his intelligence, they managed to escape. Vault agreed with her. She said in this case, he couldn't blame Mira. The boy, on the contrary, praised the girl for the good work. Mirabu fired that her partner shouldn't praise her, otherwise she'd be embarrassed. The girl blushed. Her reaction made Vault laugh. Mirabu suggested coming back for the items, since the fog had dissipated. However, before she could finish speaking, fainted, the young man managed to hold it. He was very concerned and called for her. At that moment, Rika also fell on the floor of pain. Vault did not understand what was happening and asked his companions to tell him what was wrong with them. However, no one could answer. The hero was in a desperate situation. He had no problems during the battle, but when it came to healing, he could do nothing. Mira began to suspect that the mist spit by the monster could be a paralyzing and deadly poison. The girl began to talk about how some potions could delay the effects of the poison. The boy, in desperation, asked her not to tell him that the fog was a paralyzing and deadly poison. The girl started talking about how some of the meds were in the bag she had thrown away. The partner said she had no choice. She said she saw a huge lizard crush her with the vials. Now the craftswoman knew it was a fatal mistake. Rika started breathing high. Both girls were pale in pain. The young man understood that his partners would not last long. He had little time. He asked Mira if she could do anything. The girl asked him to lift his skirt. Vault exclaimed that this was no time for games. But Mira begged you. In the end, the young man did as she asked. He lifted his skirt and saw the potions attached to her thigh. The girl laughed weakly. She had experience as a craftsman, so she had stored extra bottles. Mira said this dose would be enough to stop the poison. Urgent interruption. He was happy that now he could help his friends and save them. He took the potions in his hands. Mira said with a smile that it was impossible to save both. Ishtuto asked if she was asking him to choose which life he should save. The girl said she'd do it for him. She begged him to give the cure to Rika's deadly poison, but not to her. Now, recalling the moment since his arrival in the capital, Mira considered himself a disgrace. The proud life of adventure had turned her into this. She always failed. The girl was weak and useless, so no one ever accepted her into her group. When she met the boys, she was very happy. Mira felt gratitude. As the girl spoke, she felt as if her body was burning. The craftsman knew death awaited her. However, she didn't care. The most important thing for her was to save someone from her group in the end. Fantasy adventure. She was useful, but what Mirabu really wanted was to continue the adventure with the guys. Open the potion bottle. Volt asked the girl to drink IT. He added that Rika had already taken the medicine. At that time, Mira realized that half the liquid remained in the test tubes. The girl protested. She said her partner should drink it all, not half. The hero replied that if Rika found out that Mira sacrificed himself to save her, he would be sad. The artisan claimed that this was the case. He couldn't take them both to the capital. Because there were still too many hours left for the city, Exits the young man interrupted her, asking her not to complain. He added that he knew how stubborn she was, clinging to life, and asked her to stop making the saint. The hero threatened that if she didn't drink for herself, he would force her to drink mouth to mouth. Mirabu shouted shock. She was ready for anything but that, because she hadn't even had her first kiss. Sink, corrected by Elderman Vault, glued the tube into her mouth, and the girl finally drank the potion. He caressed his head and made sure he could easily carry them in his arms. But the boy promised he wouldn't leave Mira. The girl blushed. He grabbed the girls and said it was time for them to come back. Fantasy-themed adventure music, the hero advised the craftsman to hold her teeth so she wouldn't bite her tongue. Mirabu did not understand how Volt would take them to the capital quickly, because she had already seen her speed running. However, she was mistaken. The young man pushed himself and started running at a speed that shocked the girl. Mirabu eventually fainted. The girl woke up and saw that she was lying in the infirmary, with Riku in the next bed. She realized that Volt had saved her from both. At that moment, the door opened and a young man came in. He saw that one of his partners had also recovered, and asked how she was feeling. Mirabu wanted to get up, but realized that the paralysis had not yet passed. Dreamy fantasy music. The boy said the doctor had given them an antidote to the poison, so they had nothing to worry about. The girl remembered little, so she wanted to know what had happened. Mirabu asked how many days she had slept. The young man didn't understand what she was saying. He leaned over and said it was only 3 hours. The girl understood nothing. Because the trip to the capital took 2 hours, the hero said he was in town in 3 minutes. At Volt's speed, of course. Mirabu received the appropriate treatment in time to the craftsman. It all seemed crazy. The epic fantasy theme with harps and drums. She asked if the young man knew that no human could do such a thing. Volt said it was obvious, but he wasn't human. The boy looked at her and said, with a smile, that he was the Demon King. Then he waved his hand and said Mirabu could come home in 3 days. The most important thing for them now was that everything was fine with the girls. Suddenly, Mirabu screamed. Volt was scared and asked if the poison was acting on her again. It would be problematic for him if the craftsman became even dumber and scarier because of it. The girl was outraged. Fantasy adventure. It was about the mission. Mirabu asked if he could still finish it. Volt replied that, technically, yes, but her purse had been crushed by the monster. There were jewels inside her. Mirabu blushed and said that the pearls were not in the bag, but in his underwear. The young man asked if that was true. He was happy for the chance to finish the mission and make money on it. The girl explained that underwear was made especially for craftsmen. They could keep little things underneath. He pulled her out and told her abruptly to get it out right away. The girl screamed with surprise. She asked if he really wanted to put his hands on a soul as innocent as hers. However, Volt did not really understand her shame. He noticed that Mira could not move due to paralysis, so he would have to do everything himself. The girl screamed and asked for a nurse. The young man said there was no one in the building because of some kind of food poisoning. Beiji M. Mirabu remembered she was naked. However, the hero didn't care. He had no interest in her body, just the mission. Mirabu cried and asked the girl to take the lute instead of the wild Valgarda. The young man asked his colleague to control her language. After that, thanking you, Elsie, the boys have completed the task and received the reward smoothly.